All heavens sign in from Naruto, Chapter 501-520. Chapter 501 That wonderful feeling. After listening to the information shared by the captains expressed their shock. Aizen also inadvertently pushed the frame on the bridge of her nose. That is to say, Yifeng was able to see through the hidden ability of the transformation virtual. Defeat the full-fledged Zakagi Kenpachi. He was really funny. Okay, everyone be quiet first. Captain Yamamoto poked his cane lightly on the ground. Boom, sounded. Then, all the captains fell silent again. Even thorns like Zaragi Kenpachi and Nimayuri didn't dare to mess around anymore. The matter of the Great Wilderness is no trivial matter. Let's talk about your views first. The 13th team of the Guardian must always take action. Captain Yamamoto said slowly. There is an emptiness in the Great Wilderness. This kind of thing is very wrong, but just like what Captain Broken Bee experienced, if the emptiness in the Great Wilderness can use the Great Wilderness Spirit Sun to fight, it will be very unfavorable to us. Hitsugaya Tushiro calmly analyzed, thought a little, and came to this conclusion. Captain Hitsugaya is right. It's not a good idea to rush into the wilderness. For today's plan, perhaps we should strengthen the management of Wooding River first, observe it first, and then make plans. The 7th Division Captain Komamura Zujin made his suggestion. Well, the concubine thinks that the captain of Komamura is right. The Great Wilderness is a very special place. We can no longer go in and out like Yifeng and the others. We should test the outside first, otherwise, if we go deep, there is a good chance that life will appear. Problem. Uno Hanaritsu smiled and expressed her agreement with Komamura Zojin's opinion. But Yifeng always felt that something was not right when Yifeng heard Ujiwalai's suggestion. But actually, the remarks of Uno Hanalai are very normal. There's nothing wrong with it. The other captains also agreed. So, Yifeng smiled inadvertently. Perhaps. It's just that he's thinking too much. Uno Hanalai is of course a very serious person. Just like him. Cut, it's just a big wasteland, you guys are scared. Zanaki Kenpachi stood up and said with disdain, you guys are testing the outside, just let me go in and explore alone. The idea of Zaraki Kenpachi is actually very simple. Since there are exceptions in the Great Wilderness. So, someone has to go in and explore. If others dare not, then let him perform such a task alone, right? Just you. At this time, Nayuri, who always looked down on Kenpachi Zaraki, spoke up. From the perspective of the process of this mission, you are completely a hindrance in this mission to enter the Great Wilderness, which not only affects them to bring back the experimental materials, but also harms others and themselves. It is simply the existence of a teammate. Nimayuri was very unhappy. Because, in Namori's view, such a phantom with complex functions must be an excellent research material. But such material was actually destroyed by Kenpachi Zakagi. He was angry. Cut, isn't it just the emptiness that can release Yuhi-colored gas? I'll bring one of you back, so that you can all experience that wonderful feeling. Zaraki Kenpachi retorted, not to be outdone. To this, Broken Bee and Matsumoto Ranju directly fought a cold war. That wonderful feeling. Although in a sense this statement is fine. But in the normal sense, this statement is very problematic. They're going to quit that gas. Okay, stop arguing, Captain Yamamoto said solemnly. Captain Komamura's suggestion, the old man thinks it can be accepted. In addition, as for the question of the ghost, Captain Namori, since Captain Zaragi has inhaled that strange gas, if you let him cooperate with you, you can find a way to deal with it. Does it do some research? Yes, although the effect may be very weak, an excellent scientist like me will definitely be able to analyze some information. Niyuli spread her hands. Okay, then, Captain Zaragi, please cooperate with this matter. Yamamoto Yuanyugai Shigekuni ordered. Ah, cooperate with what? It's so annoying. What is there to study about the gas? Anyway, After I inhaled that strange gas, I became more fighting than before. Zakagi Kenpachi was very impatient. Said, by the way, I clearly saw that the three of you seem to have inhaled a little. You should be able to cooperate, right? Hear this. Matsumoto Ranju's face is directly Yuhi's. This makes Hitsugaya Toshiro feel that things are even more wrong. The amount of poison gas we inhaled is very small, so there is no obvious effect. It should have been metabolized by the body itself. Broken Bee looked at Yi Feng with a cold look and asked, I'm right, Yi Feng. Vice Captain. Facing the question of Broken Bee, Yi Feng could only nod his head against his will. Although this is not consistent with his quality of honesty and trustworthiness. But, for the honor of the girls, he had no choice but to cooperate with his conscience. Then, he said, yes, we are all normal. After being poisoned, the minds of the three of us are clear, and everything we do follows our original heart. There is nothing wrong with it. Hear Yi Feng's answer. Broken Bee clenched the Kiba pass secretly. This bastard. They are taking advantage of them again. It's so nasty. ... The Great Wilderness has come to an end for the time being. According to the final discussion of the meeting, the Gote 13 team made a decision. They will increase the defense around the Wooding River, and let each division send members to take turns to station, and strictly monitor the changes on the edge of the Wooding River. If you really find that there is a void in the Great Wasteland again, they will send the captain to investigate again. Thus, danger can be minimized. After all, maybe Yi Feng and the others encountered Shu as the only creature living in the wilderness. In addition, after this mission, the qualifications of Yi Feng, the acting captain, have also been recognized by everyone. Although he joined the Guardian Team 13 for a short period of time, he could not be officially appointed as the captain for the time being, but in the eyes of many people, Yi Feng is already the captain of the 9th Division. After all, with Zhengmu Janba as proof, no one would doubt Yi Feng's strength. As for Broken Bees and Chrysanthemums, Yi Feng will also make the same promise as he made before. If they don't come to him, he will not disturb their normal life. Of course, Yi Feng also expressed kindness to them and told them that if they needed any help, they could come to the 9th Division to find him at any time. He is happy to help. But, Yi Feng's kindness directly ignited Broken Bee's fighting intent. If there were other people around at the time, the Broken Bee may be drying on the spot with the night air. Chapter 502 Aizen's plan. After the meeting, Aizen Su Yusuke left the team building of the first team calmly. Back to the 5th squad. As soon as you enter, Aizen's vice captain Hinamori Dao immediately greeted her with enthusiasm. Captain Aizen, you're back, a delicious breakfast has been prepared for you, do you need to eat it now? Hinamori looked at Aizen with a shy face and smiled. No way. The morning meeting was too rushed. After Captain Aizen got up, he didn't even have time to eat breakfast. So, Hina Moritao, the caring vice captain, kindly prepared breakfast before Aizen came back. Eat right now while it's hot. Thank you very much, Vice Captain Hinamori, I am really lucky to have an adjutant like you. Aizen smiled gently, and then said, but breakfast is nothing, I still have business. I'm going to the study, don't let anyone disturb me. Ah, well, Hinamori Dao lowered her head in disappointment. But she would not ignore Captain Aizen's arrangement. This is her bottom line. Back to the study. Ichimaru Silver had already been waiting here wearing a spirit mask. Captain Aizen, are you satisfied with Yifeng's strength? Ichimaru Silver put his hands in his cuffs and looked at Aizen with a smile. To be frank, regarding the fact that Yifeng was able to defeat Zaraki Kenpachi, Ichimaru Silver was not surprised. Because he saw the night wind shot. He knew that Yifeng was really strong. If Yifeng can really take control of Jinghua Shuiyu, Ichimaru Silver thinks that Yekas might really be able to defeat Aizen Soyusuke. He is indeed a very interesting opponent. Although I don't know what his real purpose is, his strength should not be underestimated. Aizen put away the smirk on the corner of his mouth. Although Aizen thought it would be easy for him to defeat a full-fledged Zaragi Kenpachi. But a strong individual like Yifeng appeared in a group of ants. He really didn't expect this. And what Aizen cared about most was not Yifeng's strength, but the purpose of the Night Wind. From the very beginning, he didn't believe that Yifeng was just because of justice, so he wanted to join the 9th Division to join Dong Xianyao. So Aizen keenly felt that there must be a big secret hidden behind Yifeng. Only he has not lifted the mysterious veil of Yifeng yet. But he really hoped that when Yifeng's mysterious veil was revealed, it would bring him a little shock. Otherwise, his invincible life is really boring. So, what should we do next, Captain Aizen? Ichimaru Silver asked with a smile. Next, in order to avoid long nights and dreams, I think our plan should be able to start early. Azumo smiled faintly. In his opinion, the night wind is just an unknown variable. And the person who is really sitting down with him is Kazuki Urahara in this world. Captain Aizen, you mean, is Rukia's plan really going to be carried out? Ichimaru Silver was slightly taken aback. Not long ago, Rukia had been successfully attacked by a dummy according to the requirements of the plot. The plug-in Shinigami Kurosaki Ichigo has also been successfully launched. Originally, the only person Aizen paid attention to was Ichigo Kurosaki. Because he has successfully integrated the human beings, the god of death, the void, and the Quincy, these 4 completely different powers. A typical arrogant man. It is also the key experimental object that Aizen is most concerned about. But when Rukia was, inexplicably, attacked by Shu, Urahara Kazuki gave Rukia a widow, Mukuro, with a hidden jade, and let Rukia stay by Kurosaki Ichigo's side. Then Kuchiki Rukia naturally entered Aizen's line of sight. That's right, since Kazuki Urahara's chess game is so wild, we certainly can't let him down. Aizen smiled indifferently. The black-rimmed glasses on the bridge of the nose were temporarily removed. Aizen always knew that the other broken jade was in the hands of Urahara Kazuki. But Urahara Kazuki's strength is strong, plus he is hiding in the world. Aizen has never had a good chance to capture the collapsed jade in his hand. But it's different now. His well-preserved broken jade, which had been preserved for 100 years, into Rukia's soul by doing tricks to Rukia's widow Mukuro. And let Rukia appear in Aizen's field of vision. This unreasonable behavior naturally hides a special intention behind it. And for smart people, this intention is already very obvious. That's simply Urahara Kazuki's conspiracy. He just wanted to force Aizen to attack Rukia. Because if you want to take out the Benyu from Rukia's body, Aizen must use the double scorpion. But in the soul world, when the prisoner is punished by double death, the captains of the Gote 13 team must be there. So, that time, Benyu will appear in front of everyone, and if Aizen wants to snatch Benyu, he can only expose himself. As long as the blue dye is exposed, Urahara Kazuki believes that Soul Society must have the ability to kill Aizen on the spot. Oh, but if we fail, it's very dangerous. Ichimaru Silver still said with a smile. Although Daxu's anti-membrane bandits can help them escape from the soul world. But any ability is an external manifestation of spiritual power. The anti-film bandit is amazing. But in the end, can you resist the masters of the corpse soul world? Ichimaru Silver is also unclear. Failure. Aizen Suo Yusuke smiled indifferently and said, Silver, do you think the word failure will really appear in my plan? Aizen is very confident. He has already completed the layout. Everything is in his master. He has this confidence. Ah, if you don't count the 2 times you plan to murder Yifeng. It seems that you have never failed. Ichimaru Silver shrugged with a smile. Yes. If it is not the case that Aizen got Yefeng into the virtual circle and wanted to kill Yefeng and sent him and Dongxian to join forces to kill Yefeng. Aizen did not have any misjudgment. Silver. I can't believe you are getting more and more humorous. Aizen's eyelids twitched slightly. His voice was getting colder. Yamanaka night wind is indeed a variable. Need to pay attention in the future. ... The following few days, Yifeng stayed in the 9th division honestly. Except for meeting the Broken Bee when attending the captain's meeting. He really doesn't intend to interfere in the lives of Broken Bee and Matsumoto Ranju. After all, according to Yifeng's experience summed up in Super Seminary, when the girl's favorability score has not reached 87 points, the opponent will be pushed down. This is actually a very troublesome thing. Chapter 503 Confused Broken Bee. Favorability before being locked by the system. The mood of the girls is bound to fluctuate greatly. This kind of experience is far more popular with girls who have not locked in favorability. So, Yifeng knew exactly what he wanted. This day, the bored Yifeng came to the prison of the 9th division. He arraigned 2 long, fairly decent female prisoners as usual. We are interrogating to the crucial point. Sudden. Yifeng's system rang. Ding. Please sign in next to Kuchiki Rukia when the host is invading the confession palace. There is no time limit for this sign-in task. Hear this wonderful sound. Yifeng couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Good guy. This mission actually limited 2 preconditions. It should be a more complicated type of sign-in. Invasion by misfortune. Palace of Penance. Rukia. Yifeng pinched the chin of a female prisoner in front of him. Thought about it. He has been thinking about broken bees and chrysanthemums in his mind recently. I really forgot to take care of Rukia. So, judging from this signing task, the main plot of the God of Death is estimated to have been triggered. Then, Yifeng decided to first send Hisagi Shuhei to the 13th Division to investigate. That, Vice Captain Yifeng, you stay here for the interrogation. Is it really okay? Hisagi Shuhei swallowed. Although Yifeng has shown a very good level in torture. But, Hisagi Shuhei always felt that Yifeng's way was too wild. A little worried about him. I don't know if this idea is correct. Shubing, what can I have a problem with? You go to the 13th Division and ask about Rukia's situation. Go back early. Yifeng waved his hand impatiently. Isn't that just interrogating 2 prisoners? What could be wrong with this? What about trouble? ... Not long time. Hisagi Shuhei has returned from the 13th Division. As expected. Rukia has been out of touch for nearly a month. In other words, it's less than a month. Yifeng rubbed his chin and pondered, thinking secretly in his heart. I remember that Rukia was in this world and seemed to be stuck for about 2 months. That is to say, the task should still be Are You Early? Although this task is generally more cumbersome. But, the task itself is not difficult. After all, the confession palace itself is Yifeng's territory. All he had to do was wait until Rukia was captured by Kuchiki Byakuya and returned to the Soul Realm, and then until Kurosaki Ichigo forced his way into the Soul Palace, and then he could sign in at the Confession Palace. So, not too difficult. Just need to wait. But, anyway, Rukia is Yifeng's friend after all. And Yifeng is the warden of the Soul Realm. So, Yifeng felt that he should try to intervene manually. At least, to make Rukia happier while she was waiting to die in the Palace of Penance. Speaking of happiness, Yifeng felt that he was very good at making girls happy. Think about it. Yifeng's train of thought is about to travel every day. At this time, the herald of the first team suddenly came. Deputy Captain Yifeng, the commander-in-chief has an order. Please rush to the first team as soon as possible, and temporarily hold a captain's meeting. The messenger respectfully said. Oh, there's another meeting. What the hell is going on? Yifeng asked, squinting. Well, I don't know very well. Anyway, I don't think the captain's face is very good. I'm afraid something big is going to happen. The herald's eyelids jumped. Be honest. Based on the messenger's understanding of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni. This time. Absolutely no small thing. Otherwise. The captain's face couldn't be so ugly. Okay, I'll arrange for these two prisoners first, and they'll go over immediately afterward. Yifeng shook his head. To say that the technological development of the Soul Society is not slow. There are all kinds of black technology. But why can't the Technology Development Bureau build something like a phone bug? Thus, not only is it convenient for everyone to communicate. You don't have to be dragged to the first team for a meeting at every turn. It can definitely improve work efficiency. For example, you can do other things while having a meeting. How convenient. Come to the first team. Door of the venue. Yifeng happened to meet Broken Bee, the captain of the second division. Broken Bee is as cold as ever. There was an expression on her face that she didn't know how much money others owed her. After the two met, they raised their brows at the same time. Broken Bee let out a cold snort at Yifeng. Yifeng looked at Broken Bee and shook his head. Captain Broken Bee, haven't we already agreed? What happened that day should just be a dream. Why do you have to be full of hostility every time you meet me? To this, Yifeng was quite speechless. Just pretend that nothing happened. He did it all. But, obviously, the Broken Bee is always targeting Yifeng because of the events of that day. Is this really good? Shut up. What a dream. What nonsense are you talking about? This moment. The Broken Bee suddenly yelled at Yifeng as if someone stepped on its tail. Huh. Yifeng couldn't help falling into contemplation when he saw the overreacted Broken Bee. He didn't understand what happened to this girl. Got gunpowder. Actually, the word Broken Bee doesn't want to hear now is the word, dream. Because she has been repeating the dream of the same season for the past few days and nights. This made her very uncomfortable. Especially dreaming. She didn't resist at all. Instead, a little more catering to. And the performance of Broken Bee in the dream made her unacceptable after waking up. Flight of the Bumblebee. Extremely wild. Broken Bee thinks it can't be her. Push open the door of the conference room. The Night Wind glanced at him. The captains of the other squads have basically arrived. He and Broken Bee are tied for last place again. I don't know if it's because the other captains are too active in meetings, or because their team is really busy and has nothing to do. Ah, have Vice Captain Yefeng and Captain Broken Bee made an appointment every time recently? Why did they always arrive together at the last hour? Ichimaru Silver looked at them with a smile. Quietly laughed. How is this possible? Can't you see that every time the two of them meet, it's like they're about to get together? It's obvious that they don't get along at all. Hitsugaya Tushiro pouted in disapproval. If it weren't for so many people at the venue. Just by their temper. Toshiro felt that these two might be able to do it on the spot. Speaking of which, the two of them do seem to be a little off, especially after returning from the Great Wilderness. Shuru Yukitaki touched his chin. He felt that what Ichimaru Silver and Tushiro said seemed to make sense. The situation is so bizarre. The truth is so unclear. Chapter 504_Rukia's Crime. Oh, you single dogs, stop guessing, you don't understand anyway. Uzumaki smiled softly. People are really wrong. But Rain Girl has no melon. Just when the captains of Eating Melon were discussing secretly, the commander-in-chief Yamamoto Moto Ryusai Shigekuni finally slowly walked out from behind the screen. This time, he was not sitting on his broad golden Nanmu chair. He stood in front of a group of captains. He glanced coldly at their faces. Then speak. Captains. This time, everyone was summoned urgently because of a very serious act of lawlessness and disorder in Sarange. Captain Yamamoto's voice fell. He jabbed the stick in his hand sharply towards the ground. Boom. Immediately, a gust of wind blew in all directions along the base of the cane. The ground is also centered on where the crutches touch. In an instant, it cracked towards the surroundings. Obviously, the old man Yamamoto was very angry this time. Mr. Yuanlujai, what happened to make you so angry? Shiro Yukitaki swallowed his saliva. It had been a long time since he had seen Shigeo Yamamoto Motoyanagi behave like this. It seems the situation is serious. I don't know who is so unlucky to provoke the teacher. Humph. Just now, Captain Muley gave me a piece of news that shocked the old man. When the old man Yamamoto said that, he glanced at Yukitaki. It's the member of your 13th division, Kuchiki Rukia. She is not dead, but she secretly imparted her death power to humans. And she's also hiding in a widow Mukuro that can cover up Reiatsu. What is she trying to do? Floating bamboo. Tell me about it. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni was originally the teacher of Yukitaki Shuru. Because Yukitaki Shuru's health is not good. So, all the time, Yamamoto Yuanyugai Shigekuni took great care of the floating bamboo. Sometimes, even at the captain meeting of Gote 13, Yamamoto could allow Yukitaki to be absent. But this time, the old man Yamamoto was obviously really angry. Teacher, is what you said true? From what I know about Rukia, she shouldn't do such a thing. Shuru Yukitaki's face revealed a shocking expression. He swallowed hard. Mouth wide open. I can't believe Rukia would do such a thing. Humph. Of course it's true. Do you know what her crime is in the Soul Society? Yamamoto Motoyanagi's voice was cold. As a god of death, you can fight to death. But you must not do anything that violates the laws of the Soul Realm. This is the bottom line. Sin, the crime is. Shiro Yukitaki's face was bitter. Of course he knew what Rukia's crime was. But Shuru Yukitaki was Rukia's captain. He really couldn't speak. And this time, Kuchiki Byakuya, who rarely spoke at captain meetings, suddenly spoke up. Rukia's behavior violated the rules of Saraiti, and it is a sin of great treason. Rukia is a sinner and cannot be forgiven. Unforgivable. When Kuchiki Byakuya said these words in public, his fingers were shaking slightly. Kuchiki Byakuya's feelings for Kuchiki Rukia are very special. They are not biological siblings. Kuchiki Rukia is actually Kuchiki Byakuya's sister-in-law, and this sister-in-law is exactly the same as his deceased wife. So, Kuchiki Byakuya tends to have a very complicated mood when facing Rukia. But his adopted brother is absolutely in love with Rukia, the adopted sister. This love is a little complicated though. But that is also love. So, when Kuchiki Byakuya said Rukia's crime, his heart is very painful. He promised his deceased wife to take care of Rukia, but apparently he didn't. What? Isn't that Kuchiki Rukia your sister? As the head of the Kuchiki clan, the head of the 4 great nobles, you don't even plead for her. Isn't the central room number 64 the back garden of your nobles? At this time, Zaragi Kenpachi said indifferently. He has always seen Kuchiki Byakuya very unhappy. At this time, naturally, he has to come out and fight. Zaraki Kenpachi, you are just a ronin from Liuhun Street. What kind of nobles do you know? Kuchiki Byakuya glanced coldly at Zaragi Kenpachi. Actually, as Zaragi Kenpachi said, nobles do have privileges in the Soul Realm. The Kuchiki family is also the head of the 4 nobles in the Soul Society. Definitely the pinnacle of privilege. But if the person who has the problem this time is just an ordinary member of the Kuchiki family, so there must be someone working in the Kuchiki family secretly. During this process, as the head of the house, Kuchiki Byakuya only needs to open one eye and close one eye. But Rukia is different. Rukia Kuchiki is his sister-in-law Byakuya Kuchiki. Just because she has this special identity, Kuchiki Byakuya can't show favoritism. If not, even the head of the Kuchiki family couldn't obey the rules of the Seraiti. Who in the entire noble family would care about the rules of the Seraiti? This spirit is righteousness. But Kuchiki Byakuya's remarks obviously caused discomfort to the other captains. Hey, Byakuya, you understand, many of us here are from Liuhun Street. Hitsugaya Toshiro said coldly. Oh, is there no human rights because of poor background, Captain Kuchiki? Ichimaru Silver shrugged. To be frank, although they are not particularly fond of Kenpachi. But everyone was born in Liuhun Street. Even if they are now the captains of the Gotei 13. But they still could not integrate into the circle of nobles. Still have opinions on the nobility. This contradiction is deeply rooted. It's hard to change. Don't be impatient, everyone. In fact, the nobles are not as dark as everyone thinks. The 46th room in the center was also selected by Mr. Yuanlujai himself, and they are relatively fair. Shiruro Yukitaki made a round of embarrassment with an embarrassed expression. But Komamura Zujin, the captain of the 7th Division, quickly raised a different opinion. Justice, Captain Fuju, if Captain Dongxian hadn't lost contact, he would definitely not agree with what you just said. This. Shiro Yukitaki sighed and was about to continue his explanation. But this time, Captain Yamamoto burst out with a wave of evil spirits. Enough. Is the old man asking you to discuss aristocratic affairs? What the old man asked you to discuss is the matter of Kuchiki Rukia. Yamamoto Motoyanagi was very angry. The existence of the nobility has certain problems though. But nobility is deeply entrenched in the soul realm. Although they sometimes enjoy privileges, they have also made a lot of contributions to the stability of the soul society. So, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni did not want to delve into the issue of the nobility. Chapter 505 Broken Bee's Secret. Captain. About Rukia. I think it should be investigated in detail before a final conclusion is reached. Maybe there is something else behind this incident. Even though Broby doesn't have much affection with Rukia. But she still spoke to Rukia fairly and impartially. I think Captain Brokenbee is right. This matter should be investigated first. Yifeng nodded. But this behavior of his attracted some Byakugan from Brokenbee. Deputy Captain Yamanaka, although you are only an acting captain. But can you have some opinions of your own? Can you not go along with other people's opinions at every turn? Brokenbee glared at Yifeng. Of course I'm right. But use you to be sure. I am the contemporary head of the Bee family. Captain of the 2nd Division. Finally. This attitude of Brokenbee made Yifeng feel a little unbearable. Just a girl. Zhang Qiba dances his claws in front of him at every turn. Are there any rules? Then. Yifeng retorted unceremoniously. Brokenbee. I think you should reflect on yourself first. Isn't it because of you and me that something unspeakable happened when I was in the great wilderness? Do you have to keep doing this to me? How about we talk about it in front of everyone today, and let everyone come and judge together? See if I'm wrong. In the night wind. Men and women are equal. He detoxifies the Brokenbee. This in itself is a simple act of righteousness and courage. There is no such thing as who takes advantage of whom. And the goddess of death of the 13th team of the god Te also established an organization called the Association of Women of Death. But you can't say that men and women should be equal, and on the other hand, there are some things that are unfair to men, right? Is this really appropriate? So, Yifeng felt that he had to fight back. Just be honest. Yifeng's voice fell. Zaraki Kenpachi had a confused look on his face. What? What is Yifeng saying? What can't you say? He didn't feel like anything was wrong, didn't he? Hitsugaya Tushiro also frowned meaningfully. He had asked Luanju about what happened to them in the Great Wilderness. According to the description of the chrysanthemum, Yifeng has never been alone with Broken Bee. Chamomile has always been with them. So, according to the description of the chrysanthemum, shouldn't something too outrageous have happened to them? What is the truth? Deputy Captain Yifeng, you, don't talk nonsense. How can we have something that we can't talk about? This moment, Broken Bee was completely frightened. If Yifeng really told the public what happened to them in the Great Wilderness that day, so, wouldn't her aloof personality collapse instantly? Where will she have a face in the future? This is too scary. She was actually held by Yifeng to the death. Yeah, originally, I thought there should be nothing wrong, but Captain Broken Bee's explanation, I think something is wrong with you. Jingle Chunchui shrugged. Yeah, I'm really curious about what happened. Ichimaru Silver rubbed his chin with a smile. At this moment, the atmosphere at the venue started to get weird. A sly smile appeared on the corner of Maojawali's mouth. She was ready to eat a big melon. Aizen Yusuke also looked at Yifeng and Shibi with elusive eyes. Although he did not check the body of the Broken Bee like Uno Hanaritsu. But he has found some clues. He seemed to gradually begin to understand Yifeng's preferences. This is a very good thing for Aizen. Because to defeat an enemy, you must first understand the enemy. An enemy with no desires is obviously the most difficult to defeat. He thought Yifeng was such an enemy. But obviously, Night Wind is in demand. Then he has a weakness. Boom. At this time, the commander-in-chief finally couldn't hold back his anger. He slammed the crutches toward the ground, making a loud noise. Captains, can you guys stop digressing? Don't you realize the seriousness of Rukia's matter? The old man Yamamoto interrupted the ripping off between Yifeng and Broken Bee. Pull the main line back. To this, Yifeng did not resist anything. Instead, he glanced at Broken Bee a little strangely. Because just after he finished fighting Broken Bee's favorability for him has actually risen a bit. It's already 80%. Yifeng has also added Broken Bee to his mirror projection. Although the ability of the Broken Bee Night Wind is not particularly required. But this phenomenon shows a reason. It is very likely that the properties of the Broken Bee are thought here. Yifeng carefully recalled the scene that happened in the Great Wilderness that day. Then, he nodded meaningfully. It really is that kind of attribute. Makes sense. Can be cultivated well. See this scene. Broken Bee was inexplicably angry. That spit in my heart. What are you nodding at me? Are you thinking about all that mess again in your mind? Like you in a dream. Thought here. Broken Bee glared at Yifeng again. But this time, Yifeng did not choose to back down. He also gave Broken Bee a very scary look. Faced with such an eye contact, the Broken Bee couldn't help swallowing. Turned his head away. Stop watching the Night Wind. But, however, Yifeng clearly saw that Broken Bee's favorability for him increased by 1 point again. Here comes the hammer. Yifeng felt that the 87 points of Broken Bee had already run away. The little Yuhi heart next to her avatar in the Yifeng projection system. Already faintly drooling. Popping pulp is just around the corner. ... Next. Under the leadership of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni, the melon-eating captains finally successfully completed the discussion of the Rukia incident. The conclusion is simple. Although the secret behind Rukia's actions needs to be investigated. But how to deal with Rukia is the responsibility of the Central 46th Room. And their job is to bring Rukia back to the Soul Realm. This honorable task, Captain Yamamoto assigned it to the Warden of the Soul Society, Yifeng. In addition, After all, Yi Feng's seat on the bright side is only a vice-captain. So, the commander-in-chief, Yamamoto Moto, Ryusai Shigekuni, looked more secure on the bright side. He also arranged for Matsumoto Ranju, the vice-captain of the 10th Division, to go to the present world with Yefeng to carry out this mission. After all, the two of them have worked together before. It's like getting familiar with each other. It should be more tacit. Chapter 506 Vice Captain, the table is cleaned up for you. For this arrangement of old man Yamamoto, Yifeng called him a good guy in his heart. After all, Yifeng didn't want to disturb the life of Luanju. But, since it is God's will, what can he do? After all, he is Yamanaka Yefeng, not Yamanaka Rishin, so he can't go against God's will. But, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Broken Bee, Ichimaru Silver. The three of them always felt that something wasn't quite right. Especially Ichimaru Silver. He felt a little uncomfortable on the top of his head. Back to the 9th Squad. Yifeng arranged the tasks of the 9th Division on a daily basis. The unfinished prisoners were arraigned again. After all, this time to live, Yifeng may not be able to come back so soon. Although it was easy to catch Rukia back with Yifeng's strength. But, Rukia is his friend after all. Yifeng was still somewhat repulsed by this matter. After a while, the door of Yefeng's office was pushed open. Matsumoto Ranju walked in. Meet old acquaintances. Both of them had mixed feelings. Shu Bing, you go out first, I will talk to the vice-captain of Luanju about something alone. Yifeng ordered. Then, well, Hisagi Shubin gave them a meaningful look, and skillfully helped Yefeng clean up the desk, and then left the office obediently. Sit down. Yifeng smiled and shrugged, looking at Luanju and said, don't be restrained by me. Yeah, how could I be restrained? I've never been restrained. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yefeng with beautiful eyes and said with a chuckle, by the way, I heard that you were almost at the captain's meeting today. Just a showdown with Captain Broken Bee. Do you want to let it go? Matsumoto Ranju closed the office door. Beautiful eyes flashed. Sitting on the opposite side of Yifeng, Matsumoto has a charming face and a sweet smile. Dress style is as mature as ever. Just like she had really let go of what happened that day. It's not that I can't put it down, it's that the Broken Bee can't put it down. Yifeng shrugged and said indifferently, after all, there are many beautiful girls on Liuhun Street, and I won't be short of girls, so why should she be one of them? Hanged from a tree. You. When Matsumoto Ranju heard this, Yifeng gave Yifeng a blank look. But then, she winked at Yifeng again and said, just brag, I've heard it all, since the last time we came back from the Great Wilderness, you haven't left Saraiti at all, how can you go out of your mind? Looking for pretty girls on the street. Oh, are you so concerned about my whereabouts? You even went to inquire about it specifically. Yifeng looked at Luanju with a bit of playfulness and smiled. Yifeng had indeed never left Saraiti. To be honest. After Yifeng came to the world of death, although there were not many opportunities to touch girls. But he wouldn't go to a place like Liuhun Street to spend. Because he is a decent man. Not old-fashioned. What? I don't have one. Our 10th Division is a patrol and guard unit. It is a very daily thing to occasionally check the entry and exit records of Saraiti. Matsumoto Ranju's pretty face suddenly became Yuhi. Eyeballs fluttered left and right. He didn't dare to face Yifeng's slightly teasing gaze at all. To be honest. This is guilt. She just kept watching Yifeng. Ah, so that's how it is. Yifeng said with a faint smile, I thought you had any thoughts on me. If you don't, then I'm relieved. What? You can rest assured. Am I that bad? If I have thoughts about you, will you still dislike me? Matsumoto Renku stood up a little unhappy. Put your hands on the desk. The body leans forward slightly. Look at the night wind. To this. Approval appeared on Yi Feng's face. Looking at the great scenery in front of him. Laughed. That's not true. If you really have an idea for me, I'm actually very welcome. Look. Xu Bing even helped me tidy up the table. This is the situation. The style is quite charming. That is, an old driver like Yi Feng. If replaced by someone else. At this point, it was almost unstoppable. Actually. In this atmosphere. Matsumoto Ranju also panicked. She quickly backed away and tightened her collar. But strength does not allow it. Okay, don't talk about these nonsense, hurry up and talk about the business. Matsumoto Ranju sat back in his seat, looked at Yefeng with a complicated mood and asked, when are we going to leave? I haven't seen it for a long time. Have been in this world. Quote. Matsumoto Ranju carefully calculated. The last time she died in this world, the world had not yet entered into modern society. No hurry, just wait, I think Captain Fuju will definitely come over again. Yi Feng said. Actually. Be honest. Yi Feng felt that Shiruro Yukitaki was indeed a good captain. He has always taken great care of Rukia. And, in the original play, after Kurosaki Ichigo made a riot at the Hill of Two Deaths and rescued Rukia, Shiro Yukitaki and Jingle Chunchui stopped Yamamoto Motoryu Saijiguni together. If there is no inversion of blue dye in the end. So, Shiro Yukitaki would definitely become a sinner in the Soul Society at that time. So, Yi Feng's impression of Yukitaki Shiro is very good. Not much effort. Shiro Yukitaki really came to the 9th Division. Vice Captain Yefeng, Vice Captain Ranju, how are you? Shiro Yukitaki walked into Yefeng's office and sat beside Ranju with a heavy heart. Captain Yukitaki, are you here for Rukia's business? Yifeng smiled and handed Fuzu a glass of wine. But, Shiro Yukitaki shook his head with a wry smile. Sorry, Yefeng-kun, I'm not in good health and can't drink. Then, okay. Yifeng glanced at Luanju and said, Ranju, don't help to make a cup of tea for Captain Floating Bamboo. Ah. Matsumoto Ranju was stunned for a moment, then got up to make tea. But, in her heart, she was slandering, what is this guy doing? I'm not his vice captain. To be so skilled in arranging my work. Ah, thank you both. Shiro Yukitaki took over the fragrant tea that the chrysanthemum helped her brew. But his expression was still bitter. Not in the mood to drink tea at all. You two, about Rukia's matter, I think there must be a hidden secret behind it. I implore you to help and investigate clearly, and don't rush to bring her back. Shiro Yukitaki looked at Yi Feng solemnly. Chamomile said. Ah, don't be so polite, Captain Floating Bamboo, we will definitely investigate carefully, please rest assured. Matsumoto Ranju smiled softly. Although the friendship between Ranju and Rukia is not particularly deep. But, all are members of the Women's Reaper Society. It is also necessary to help each other. Chapter 507 _ Cross the Line. Captain Fuju, Rukia is my friend, and we certainly won't embarrass her when we die this time, but the crime she committed is very special. It's not up to us to decide how the Central 46th Room will deal with it. Yes, Yifeng said meaningfully. Well, I understand, no matter what, I still have to ask Yefeng-kun to take care of Rukia in the future. Shiro Yukitaki nodded. He understood what Yifeng meant. There is a clear division of labor among the various divisions of Saranjay. The 9th squad is the prison squad. There are only 2 areas where Yifeng can help. On the one hand, because of friendship, Yifeng can stay in this world for a while longer. Investigate Rukia's affairs carefully. On the other hand, after Rukia was captured back to the Soul Realm, regardless of the final sentence, she will definitely be held in the prison in charge of the 9th Division. And Yefeng is the warden of Saranjay. So, it's definitely okay to give Rukia some special care. Don't worry, I have a hunch that Rukia's affairs may be more tortuous. I hope Captain Fuju will be mentally prepared. After all we can do is to do our best to obey the destiny. Yifeng said something meaningful. After all, the entire central 46 rooms were controlled by Aizen. Rukia's process is doomed. Yifeng also didn't want Shuru Yukitaki to have too much hope and then disappointment and then hope and then disappointment. After all, his body is too weak. Can't stand the toss. Don't worry, Yifeng-kun, I'm mentally prepared. Ukiba gave a weak smile, then sighed again. Rukia is a poor child, I hope fate can treat her kindly. ... After sending off Yukitaki Shuru, Yifeng took Matsumoto Ranju out of the 9th division to prepare for the world. Open the gate. The two are preparing to do something to cross the border. Chamomile is also very cooperative. But when Yifeng was about to insert the key into the gate of crossing the boundary, he suddenly stopped what he was doing. He smiled back slightly playfully. Captain Kuchiki, you even came to see me, which really surprised me. Yifeng turned around, looked at Byakuya Kuchiki who walked out of the corner, and asked, are you also like Captain Yukitaki? Do you want me to let her go in the process of arresting Rukia? Facing the question of the night wind, Kuchiki Byakuya kept an indifferent expression and walked slowly to Yekaz and Matsumoto Ranju. He looked at Yifeng indifferently, and said lightly, Deputy Captain Yifeng, Rukia violated the rules of the Soul Society. You only need to follow the rules. I have nothing to add to this, just as I expressed it at the captain's meeting. Although Kuchiki Byakuya was also a junior in middle school when he was young. But, after adulthood, Kuchiki Byakuya has become a rigid person who sticks to the rules. Even if he didn't want Rukia to have an accident in his heart. Even if he looks like he's going to save Rukia. But, the yoke of the nobility controlled him. Make him unable to act according to his heart. So, don't look at such a person with infinite beauty on the surface. But in fact, also painful. Oh, isn't that the case? Yifeng raised his brows and asked, then why did you come to see me? Rukia's power of death was taken away by humans. I hope you can help me get Rukia's power back. Humans are not worthy of Rukia's power. Byakuya Kuchiki said lightly. It turns out that I can promise you this matter, but what can you bring me? Nightwind shrugged. Although he abolished Kurosaki Ichigo, it was only a matter of convenience. But, Yifeng is not a person who helps others for no reason. After all, he suffered a very serious unfair treatment after helping others last time in the Great Wilderness. This made Yifeng very sad. As long as Vice Captain Yifeng is willing to help me, my Kuchiki family owes Vice Captain Yifeng a favor, what do you think? Kuchiki Byakuya said with an indifferent expression. Oh, Kuchiki's favor. Yifeng smiled indifferently and said, okay, if there is nothing else, Luanju, let's go. Yifeng grabbed Luanju and stepped into the gate. To be frank, Yifeng wasn't particularly interested in the so-called Kuchiki family's favor. But, after all, Yifeng still has to sign in at Soul Realm. Later. Who knows where the system will let him sign in. If the Kuchiki family can owe him a favor, some things are easy to operate. For example, what if the system asks him to sign in at the women's bathroom at Kuchiki's house? By the time, wouldn't the night wind be difficult to deal with? So, this favor can work. ... Boundary. There are terrifying spiritual turbulence floating everywhere here. After the two entered the boundary, Matsumoto Ranju broke free from Yifeng's hands in a panic. Shame Yuhi. Hey, Yifeng-kun, can you please stop touching me, I'm... Speaking of which, Matsumoto Ranju was suddenly speechless. What she originally wanted to express was probably that she was a big girl. But Luanju thought about it again. She doesn't seem to be anymore. And Yifeng is the one who picks flowers. But even so, then you can't just move your hands and feet, right? After all, One has physical contact. Matsumoto Ranju will involuntarily think of those pleasant things that happen to them in the great wilderness. Thought here. Matsumoto Ranju started to feel sullen again. She was obviously forced to be helpless. But why does Ran make her feel good physically and mentally when she recalls those things? So angry. Anyway, you don't want to touch me in the future. Matsumoto Ranju closed his eyes angrily. Then, she suddenly felt as if her mouth was blocked by the night wind. Ah! Are you going to gone? How could you do such a thing to me? Matsumoto Ranju was stunned. Although it just feels a little sweet. Just like the farmer spirit Izumi. But this is too sudden, too bold, right? To this. Yifeng shrugged helplessly. Didn't Miss Duan say that when a girl closes her eyes, she just wants someone to kiss her? Could it be that I remembered it wrong? Huh? Who is it? Who is Miss Duan? You really are a scumbag. That's it. In embarrassment, Yifeng took Matsumoto Ranju along the corridor that broke the boundary. Go to the end of the corridor. The door opens. Colorful lights came into Matsumoto's eyes. Wow, so beautiful. At this time, sunset falls. The neon lights in the city have risen. Those shining balls of lights make Matsumoto Ranju feel very good looking. Meng has melted the heart of a girl who is more than 100 years old. Chapter 508 _ The Beauty of the World. Crazy Chrysanthemum. Have you never been in this world? Yifeng looked at Matsumoto Ranju curiously. Although we have already communicated in depth. But Yifeng still felt that he knew too little about Luanju. Might have to go deeper. I've come here, but the last time I came to this world was more than 100 years ago. In this world at that time, the only things they could light at night were candles, and the only thing that could entertain them was creating people. Compared to now, quote. Matsumoto Ranju shrugged. He showed a look that he had never seen before. No way. The speed of development in the present world is too fast. Compared to the present world, the soul world has not changed for a long time. It's like an old windmill, waiting for someone to push it and make it spin again. The present world is a very interesting place, or we'll change to Mukuro, and I'll find a place to take you to have fun. Yifeng looked at Matsumoto Ranju with kind eyes. They rarely come to this world once. Yifeng was not in a hurry to deal with Rukia's affairs. What are you doing? Don't think that in this world, you can do whatever you want. Matsumoto Ranju quickly took 3 steps back. At the same time, the collar was tightened. She always felt that Yifeng's eyes were a little wrong. You're thinking about peaches. I'm just going to take you to a dance, to be a horse and a chicken. Don't act like I'm going to do something. Yifeng silently glared at Matsumoto Ranju. Why is his kindness always misunderstood? What the hell is going on in this world? Can you show respect to decent people? Ah, bouncers and horses kill chickens. Matsumoto Ranju pinched his waist with his right hand and touched his chest with his left. I heard friends from the 13th Division mention these 2 things, but we really don't go first. Looking for Rukia. In the end, although Matsumoto Ranju also really wants to let go of eating, drinking, and having fun in this world. But they came with a mission. Until now, they still have no clue about Rukia's affairs. Because all that the Technology Development Bureau can be sure of is that Rukia has appeared in this generation. But where exactly is Rukia? They have to find it themselves. Don't worry, you see it's getting late now. Now is the best time to have fun. Let's wait until tomorrow to do business. Yifeng looked at Matsumoto Ranju seriously. As the saying goes, the beauty of the good day is never night. You have to do what you have to do at night. How can you do the right thing? Then, well. Matsumoto Ranju calmly analyzed and thought for a while. Finally, she smiled enchantingly. Right. After all, it was not easy for her to have the chance to come to this world. It would be a shame if it was wasted. Then, Mukuro that they had prepared. Ready to go hippie. The shape of the night wind is a simple sunshine handsome style. At first glance, it is a normal person. And Matsumoto Ranju dressed up as a hot schoolgirl. To this, Yifeng could not help frowning. Hey, why did you come out dressed like this? Do you think there are really high school students with your body? Yifeng silently swept across the rolling hills of Luanju. Ah, are the girls in this world growing so slowly? I feel like I have a standard figure, right? Matsumoto Ranju unceremoniously put on a very enchanting pose, showing off her so-called standard figure. Looking at the night breeze. Come on, don't you have any points for your own strength? Change your clothes and go dance with me like this. You are trying to cause me trouble. Yifeng shook his head. 3 in the middle of the night. He is a good young man with a schoolgirl who is about to burst into a disco. This is too abnormal. It's easy to be fooled. Then, Yifeng took Matsumoto Ranju to the most prosperous business district in Kusako. Ready to go shopping and have a meal. Experience life. By the way, carefully dress up the chrysanthemum. After eating and drinking, Yifeng brought Matsumoto Ranju to a very fashionable women's clothing store. Uniqlo One Library. Yifeng, come in and help me. The front of this dress is too stretchy, so the zipper at the back is too tight, and I can't zip it up by myself. In the fitting room, Matsumoto Ranju's voice came out. This random chrysanthemum, if you really can't wear it, try something else. This store doesn't allow men and women to enter the fitting room together. I'm afraid something big will happen. The night wind was filled with emotion. He finally understood why Luanju was always revealing her career line. After all, it is very difficult to wrap up those 2 mountains. Oh, it's so annoying, then I'll change it. Then, Matsumoto Ranju began to change clothes. Yifeng, do you think this one looks good? It doesn't look good. What about this one? Will it be a bit short? Isn't it short? Short is fashionable. Well, then I'll try the current fashion. That's it. Yifeng dressed Matsumoto Ranju into one of his favorite styles. Then, Yifeng took Matsumoto Ranju to the most popular bar in Kakuzucho. Heaven and Man. Speak. This is actually the first time that Matsumoto Ranju has experienced the entertainment such as a bar. As soon as you enter, the dynamic music hits immediately. Matsumoto Ranju was surrounded by sound waves in all directions. She began to sway gently with the rhythm of the music involuntarily. At the beginning, Camomile's movements are relatively unfamiliar. Obviously some can't let go. But it didn't take long. Luanju followed the girls next to her to learn all kinds of enchanting dances. Dance floor center. The scantily clad girls are dancing the world. There are old scumbags drooling all over the place. However, Yifeng's expression was indifferent. It was as if the rising mountains did not exist at all. This kind of heart-like shisui makes Ranju feel very different. How could he be calm in a place like this? Could it be, Yifeng is really not the kind of man I imagined? When he was in the great wilderness that day, was he really just helping others? Matsumoto Ranju recalled what they had done in the great wilderness that day. Actually, be honest. The cause of the incident was that Zaraki Kenpachi's recklessness led to the poisoning of broken bees and chrysanthemums. And Yifeng is just a kind person who helps them detoxify. Thought here. Matsumoto Ranju's favorability for Yifeng finally increased to the 80-point mark. Just another 7 points. Life will be wonderful. Yifeng, come and dance together, let's get restless with the beat. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yifeng and smiled enchantingly. He took the initiative to grab Yifeng's little hand. Drag him into the center of the dance floor. Chapter 509_Dream and Reality. Enter the center of the dance floor. Although Yifeng did not show any resistance, but he still felt a little strange about Matsumoto's performance. After all, Why is it inexplicably 80%? He obviously didn't do anything. But Yifeng is not a very curious person either. Just be long. No harm anyway. Yifeng, have you noticed? I seem to have a talent for dancing. Matsumoto Ranju twisted enchantingly in front of Yifeng. It was as if a new continent had been discovered. But the night wind was still very calm. To be honest, Yifeng brought Luanju to the disc dance really just to let Luanju experience life in this world. He had no other idea at all. Don't want to do anything. After all, it's not the first time Yifeng has taken a girl to dance. When in super seminary, Yifeng often does this kind of thing. Liang Bing, Lena, Chiangwei, Chi-Rin, Ali, Hexi, Angel Yan, Angel Leng, Angel Juxin, Lianfang, Haifeng. They all jumped with the night wind. Even to the end. Yifeng directly selected a very beautiful Mercury in the Silver River system. There. He established a large disco civilization. Otherwise. Later, he received too many girls, and the earth could not hold it. You say it's irritating or not? So. Extremes must be reversed. What Dukao said to Yifeng at the beginning was very reasonable. If you have a sister in your arms for a long time, you will get tired of it. So. Yifeng has been very restrained since he came to the plane of death. He felt that he couldn't open a harem in this plane. It's enough to take 10 or 8 beautiful girls. Can't be as unrestrained as before. Oh, Yifeng, stop thinking about it there. Come here to indulge, come, drink this glass of wine, let's dance. Matsumoto Ranju picked up the glass and drank it. Face such an invitation. An alcoholic like Yifeng would naturally not refuse. Then. The two swayed while drinking. Stimulation of spirits. The dance of the chrysanthemum is more and more exciting. More and more open. The gradually changing color of the painting style is somewhat monotonous. Finally. Under the synergy of various enchanting poses and sekai. They finally had enough dancing. They decided to change places and have a chat. The next day. As soon as the rooster sings, the big day breaks Akatsuki. The first thing Yifeng did after waking up was to grab the jug. Goo. Hot wire into the throat. Excitingly. Just like the chrysanthemum of yesterday. Perhaps it was because Yifeng was drinking too loudly. Chamomile also woke up. She scratched her hair sleepily, glanced at Yifeng next to her, and lifted the quilt to take a look at herself. She let out a long sigh of relief. Hey, this dream is so long. I haven't woken up yet. Yes. Because I drank too much yesterday. In addition, Matsumoto's random chrysanthemum is so hilarious. So. In a trance. Luanju mistakenly thought that everything that happened last night was just her dream. Just like those nights of yesteryear. But. Yifeng reminded kindly. Ranju, don't make trouble, this is not a dream, this is real. Ah, what nonsense are you talking about? Matsumoto Ranju curled his lips indifferently and said, what the hell am I thinking? I actually subconsciously controlled the fake Yifeng-kun to say such a thing. In a dream. All people and things are constructed by the dreamer with the subconscious mind. So. Although Yifeng told the truth. But. Still a little stunned. Luanju didn't think this was true. She thought that Yifeng was just a baby in her consciousness. So. She unconcernedly lifted the quilt. Just eating guago stood in front of Yifeng. Recklessly stretched his limbs. Enchanting twisted a few times. But. At this time. Luanju accidentally bumped into the corner of the table. She immediately complained. Ah. It hurts. Matsumoto Ranju raised his foot with a look of grievance, put it on Yifeng's shoulder, and was about to check the position of the slammed pane. But. Luanju's gaze towards Yifeng suddenly froze for a moment. She suddenly realized a problem. This special meow is a dream. Why do you feel pain in a dream? In the past. In the dream, Luanju learned some special little knowledge from Broken Bee. But she didn't feel the pain, did she? Then. The eyes of Matsumoto Ranju looking at Yifeng began to become more and more strange. Confused, puzzled, surprised, ashamed. All kinds of emotions are mixed together. Indescribable. To this. Yifeng could only sigh helplessly. Vice Captain of Luanju, in terms of show, I would like to call you the strongest. Nightwind shrugged. He pushed Matsumoto Ranju's small feet from his shoulders to the side. Otherwise. This picture is so. But there is no way. Can't blame him for that either. After all, Yifeng had kindly reminded Luanju. He had already told Luanju that this was not a dream. But Matsumoto Ranju was completely immersed in his own fantasy. She had to ignore her image. Can't stop it. Who can do this? You mean, you're real. Last night was also true. At this time, Matsumoto Ranju's mind seemed to have an aura flashing across it. She finally recalled what had happened last night. Then. Her eyes were closed. There was a terrible scream. And this time. In order to avoid the unnecessary misunderstanding caused by the screaming of Luanju in the hotel, Yifeng. He was helpless. He could only go forward and stop Luanju's mouth. This time. Matsumoto Ranju did not push Yifeng away. Her body trembled slightly. This time. No alcohol control. There is no escape from dreams. There is also no empty Yuhi color gas. Matsumoto Ranju started to take the initiative when his consciousness had recovered. Then. After 3 hours. Yifeng's system issued a reminder that Luanju's favorability level was raised to 87 points. This surprised Yifengji. Because. When in Super Seminary. Yifeng's girls first reached 87 points and then it was a matter of course. But Matsumoto Ranju did not take the usual path. She increased her favorability to Yifeng in the process. Finally. Karen sound. Matsumoto Ranju's favorability for Yifeng broke through 87 points. To be frank. This kind of process Nightwind is the first experience. It feels so fresh. Then. Another 3 hours passed. Luanju finally realized a problem. She can't be Yifeng's opponent by herself. Then. Under Matsumoto Ranju's begging for mercy. They tidied up their moods and put on Yoshimukuro. Get ready to go out on a symbolic mission to find Rukia. Yifeng, do you want to eat something first? Ranku Matsumoto rubbed her flat, smooth belly. She felt. You need to add some nutrition first. Chapter 510 _ spare tire and dog licking. Okay. There happens to be a convenience store over there. I'll take you there for a quick bite. Yifeng glanced at the number 44 convenience store next to the road. He walked in with the chrysanthemum. 2 guests, what do you need? We have all kinds of sizes here. The salesperson Xiaoli said with a strange expression. What a mess, let's buy food. Yifeng frowned and glanced at him, feeling that the other party seemed strange. Yeah, you're a good customer. The salesperson Zhao King said with a strange smile. We have short-term effects, long-term effects or urgent ones. Which one do you need? What the hell, we'll just see for ourselves. Yifeng shook his head. Isn't this a convenience store? Not a love coup shop, right? Is it wrong? Then. Yifeng walked to the shelf. I'm going to bring a bottle of Nutrition Express to Luanju first. Let her mend her body. But. At this time. A long chubby ghost suddenly passed in front of them. Huh, what's the matter with the two of you? Why do you make it look like you can see me? Do not know why. The opening line of the Ghost of Kuzucho seems to be like this forever. Ah, little brother, of course we can see you, because we are the gods of death. Matsumoto Ranju took a bottle of Nutrition Express from the shelf. Can't wait to drink. Grim Reaper, what's your situation? Do you want to be such a middle schooler? The little fat man looked at them suspiciously. Let's settle the bill first, go out later, and arrange a soul burial for him. Yifeng gave the little fat man an impatient look. You are a person who lives in the second dimension. Even said that someone else was in the second. Ah, soul burial. I haven't done it for hundreds of years, do you still remember? Matsumoto Ranju asked Yifeng with wide eyes. Don't worry, my soul burial exam is a perfect score. Yifeng shrugged modestly. After all, it wasn't long before he graduated. Soul burial business is quite skilled. Getting a little fat guy shouldn't be a problem. Then, Yifeng and Luanju chose another large package of food. After paying the bill, they left the convenience store with the little fat man and walked into an inconspicuous alley. Tell me, what's your situation? How did you die? What obsessions are there that you can't let go of, so you can't go to the soul realm? Yifeng asked straight to the point. Soul world, where is that? Why does it sound a little scary? The world of corpses is the place where people go after death. The responsibility of the god of death is to extradite ghosts like you, but you need to let go of your obsessions first, otherwise, your mind will be swallowed by evil forces, and you will change into a monster. Yifeng simply explained it to the little fat man. Little fatty heard that he might turn into a monster. He swallowed in horror. Subsequently, he sighed again. But obsession with this thing. It doesn't mean that you can put it down when you put it down, right? Said the little fat man with a bitter face. Well, that's true, but fortunately, we are not the death gods who are responsible for extradition of ghosts. We have other tasks and just happen to pass by here, so just kill you directly. We can't let you become a monster. Yifeng rubbed his chin and thought about it carefully. He thinks in a responsible attitude towards work and society. It is necessary for them to nip future crises in the bud. But this frightened the little fat man. Brother, give me a chance. I think I can still save it. The little fat man looked at Yifeng and Luanju with a speechless expression. Although they are handsome. But are they too dark? Death is really scary. But this really can't blame the night wind. If you meet the beautiful female ghost of Yifeng, so the female ghost will definitely think that Yifeng is a very heartwarming good death god. Yes. He is such a double standard. Okay Yifeng, don't scare him. Matsumoto Ranju smiled enchantingly, raised his eyebrows and looked at the little fat man and asked, Hey, little fat man, since you don't want to die, why don't you tell your story quickly? Let us eat a melon. To enlighten you. According to the experience of Matsumoto Ranku, all the whole souls that did not enter the corpse soul world by themselves, there must be stories about them. And their stories are usually bloody. So, Matsumoto's favorite is to eat such melons. My story is actually a bit complicated, but it's hilarious and heart-wrenching. It can't be explained in a few words. A look of hesitation appeared on the little fat man's face. A bit of a twist. It is clear. He wasn't particularly willing to tell his story. Oh, since it's so troublesome, it's better to kill it with one knife. When your soul is gone, you will really be freed. Night wind finished. The ghost has been pulled out. An astonishing cold light radiated out. Don't. Big brother. Please be patient. I'll make a brief summary, and I'll make it clear soon. The little fat man quickly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, feeling that it was really difficult to give birth to a ghost. Then, under the coercion and temptation of the night wind, the little fat man finally explained his affairs clearly. Little Fatty is an excellent college student. Studied at Shore University. Don't look at the ugly appearance of the little fat man, but he is not a single dog, he is the spare tire of the goddess. One day, the goddess Little Fatty had been chasing told him that she especially wanted to be able to enjoy the beautiful starry sky from the highest point in Kakuza town. She believes that the starry sky seen from a high place should be different from the starry sky seen from the ground. Then, the spare tire fat man gave the goddess a big surprise. He was on the goddess' birthday. Climb up the antenna of the tallest TV tower in Kakuzucho. The little fat man is going to connect the video so that the goddess can see this beautiful starry sky. Have the most romantic birthday ever. But just when he was about to make a video call to the goddess, a helicopter flew by in the distance. Little Fatty's 3.0 vision allowed him to clearly see the picture in the helicopter. Inside the cabin, his goddess was kneeling in front of a tall, rich and handsome man. At the top of Kakuzucho. They did such a shameless thing. That moment, the little fat man was desperate. He suddenly figured it out. In his mind, the holy goddess has become a licking dog that others fall down. So, he doesn't like her anymore. But just when the little fat man wanted to climb down from the antenna of the TV tower, the helicopter just passed by. A violent air wave blew him straight away. Died on the spot. Two gods, so you judge me. When I encounter such a thing, am I very aggrieved? Chapter 511 Act bravely. The fat man sighed. To be frank, in the chubby and chic outlook on life, it's okay to be used as a spare tire. Got used to. Habit is second nature. But he actually died because of the goddess's mechanical shock. It's hard to swallow this breath. Is that so? Yifeng rubbed his chin, looked at Xiaopeng and asked, so, what do you want? Although the chubby story makes people feel pity. But that would have to be a soul burial. Can't keep him here and become a virtual. This goes against Yifeng's professional ethics. I actually want revenge. Can this wish come true? Xiaopeng asked weakly, looking at Yifeng. Actually, Xiaopeng likes to read novels very much. In the novel, ghosts are generally very scary beings. All kinds of resentful spirits seek revenge for their lives. Not uncommon. Such as Sadako. Such as Coconut. Little Fatty thought that he could also keep up with his predecessors. Be the scary little fat man. But little Fatty is quite dissatisfied with his current state. Because, in addition to being able to peek at various goddesses being turned into clouds and rain, and then jealous of himself as a lemon monster, can't do anything. This made him extremely devastated. Yeah, your obsession is to want revenge, so I'm afraid that won't work. Matsumoto Ranju shook his head and said, if you want revenge, you can only become a virtual, but if you become a virtual, as the gods of death, we have to kill you, you seem to be dead. Huh, isn't it? Little Fatty looked at Yifeng and Luanju with a bitter face. Feeling panicked. There's no way, because you've stayed in this world for too long, and the chain of cause and effect in front of your chest is only one section left, and you don't have much time to think clearly at all, so you still think about what to do. Die. Nightwind shrugged. At the moment, Yifeng didn't have many choices for them. Either wait for the little fat man to become virtual and kill him, or force a wave to bury the soul. But the night wind can clearly feel it. This little fat man has deep resentment now. Estimate. A knife goes down. He still has to be vain. Still to be cut. So, in the night wind, chopping early or late is all cutting. The little fat man was basically helpless. But this is definitely not because the little fat man is not a beautiful girl. Guys, give me a chance. Have I ever experienced the feeling of holding a sister in my arms? I don't want to lose my soul. I don't want to become a monster. I still want to go to the soul world to rejuvenate the second spring. After the little fat man finished speaking, he secretly glanced at Matsumoto Ranju. But he quickly put a terrible idea behind him. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would die on the spot. Just when the matter of the soul burial of the little fat man was about to come to a deadlock, suddenly, Yifeng and Matsumoto Ranju felt a very surging, but controlled reiatsu that was quite messy, and was rushing towards them quickly. Huh. Could it be that the members of the 13th Division are here? In my impression, there should be no ordinary players in the 13th division who have this level of Reiatsu. Matsumoto Ranju frowned. Although Shiruro Yukitake had arranged for a new god of death after Rukia disappeared, he was in charge of the soul burial of Kusa town. But this level of Reiatsu is not something that ordinary Shinigami can have. He's not the Grim Reaper of the 13th division. Yi Feng smiled. He had already guessed who was coming. Not much effort. The real son of the plane of death, Ichigo Kurosaki, finally officially appeared. Kurosaki Ichigo, with handsome short orange hair and a huge zanpakuto on his back, appeared in front of Yekas and Matsumoto Ranju. I'm going. What's wrong with this guy Rukia this time? It's only now that I have to deal with this whole soul. If only a little later. It is estimated that he is about to become illusory. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at the chain of cause and effect on the fat man's chest. Frowned. Rukia complained in her heart. Judging from the chain of cause and effect on little fatty's chest, if he is not buried in the soul again, it should not take long for him to become empty. Then, Ichigo Kurosaki took Zanpakuto off his back. It seems to be preparing for direct soul burial. This scene shocked Matsumoto Ranju. Hey, little brother, aren't you afraid that he will become a phantom? Matsumoto Ranju stood in front of the little fat man. Stop the reckless Ichigo. This move surprised Ichigo. You, who are you? Why can you see us? Why do you know about soul burials? Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Ranju and Yekas with vigilance. No way. Because Yi Feng and Ranju both wear Yi Mukuro. So, Ichigo didn't discover their Shinigami identities. Of course we know about soul burial, because we are also gods of death. Matsumoto Ranju glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo with a strange expression, and then asked, Little brother, are you new here? It's not even the two of us. Acquaintance. Are you serious? Matsumoto Renku said. She is a very popular vice captain in Jingling Court. If you don't say anything else, just talk about her figure. She is also one of the best in the 13th team of the Guardian. How could anyone not know her? To this, a look of shock appeared on Kurosaki Ichigo's face. What did you say? You are also the god of death. Isn't the god of death Rukia? No way. At this point in time, Rukia didn't explain much about soul society to Ichigo. So, in the concept of Kurosaki Ichigo, the god of death is Rukia, and Rukia is the god of death, the only god of death. But now, why did two gods of death appear? They suddenly changed Kurosaki Ichigo's worldview. You just said Rukia. Matsumoto Ranju's expression condensed slightly, looking at Kurosaki Ichigo. Are you the human who took away Rukia's power of death? Matsumoto Ranju was very surprised. She originally wanted to stay with Yi Feng in this world for a few more days. But now, the key person of their mission actually came to the door on their own initiative. What? I didn't take away Rukia's power. Don't snap your hats, Kurosaki Ichigo said solemnly, looking at Ranju. Really, didn't you take it away? What's going on? Matsumoto Ranju asked curiously. At that time, Rukia was attacked by Shu, and my sister was also arrested by Shu. The situation at that time was very dangerous, so Rukia took the initiative to share her power with me. Kurosaki Ichigo explained speechlessly. Ichigo's point of view. This behavior of his is absolutely righteousness. How could it be said that he stole Rukia's power? For this, Yi Feng said that he fully understood. After all, capture, be used in a matter of righteousness and courage. This is inappropriate. Chapter 512_Logic is wrong. With Rukia's strength, will she be successfully attacked by an ordinary ghost in the world? Matsumoto Ranju looked at Ichigo with a suspicious expression and said, Anyway, this is your one-sided remark. We will talk about the specific situation after meeting with Rukia. Quote. Although Matsumoto Ranju feels that it is unlikely that Rukia was attacked by a virtual sneak. But it's not entirely out of the question. After all, Combat is ever-changing. Anything can happen. But even if you are attacked by the virtual, you can't privately give the power of the god of death to humans, right? This is a matter of principle. Not to mention, Rukia's biggest problem right now is that she's hiding in the special meaning Mukuro that can hide Reiatsu. If it is said that the power of death is given to humans, it can be explained by force. For example, say it was an emergency. If not, that void can cause bigger problems. But with special meaning Mukuro and never actively contacting Soul Society, this behavior is very wrong. Just when Matsumoto Ranju was thinking about these things, the little fat man who lost his sense of existence suddenly shouted nervously. I said, a few bosses, can you not just chat with yourself? I feel like the chain on my chest is about to disappear. What should I do? Am I going to transform? The little fat man is really panicked now. He was already beginning to feel a certain degree of trance in his own spirit. He felt like he was changing in the direction of the monster. Then, Kurosaki Ichigo said nothing. In the surprised eyes of Matsumoto Ranju, his big knife hit the little fat man's head directly. The little fat man was buried smoothly. Huh. Has this guy figured it out? He let go of his obsessions at the last moment. Is it so extreme? Yifeng frowned. He clearly felt that there were still many obsessions in the little fat man's heart. Why did Kurosaki Ichigo succeed in his soul burial? What is obsession? What is letting go? Isn't soul burial just slamming the knife up? What are you talking about? A puzzled look appeared on Kurosaki Ichigo's face. When he buried his soul, it was always so simple and direct. Knife hit. The whole soul was sent straight away. How can there be so much trouble? To this, Yifeng said that your protagonist's halo is really good enough. But think about it. Ichigo Kurosaki's Zanpakuto didn't come from shallow. It's normal to be special. Okay, now that the little fat man's problem has been solved, can you take us to Rukia now? Yifeng glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo. Originally, Yifeng was not in a hurry to find Rukia. After all, Yifeng knew that Rukia was hiding in Kurosaki Ichigo's house. If he wants to find, it's easy to find Kurosaki Ichigo's clinic. So, he originally wanted to take Matsumoto Ranju to experience life in the present world. But now Kurosaki Ichigo has taken the initiative to show up. Then he can no longer pretend that nothing happened. If Rukia learns of their arrival and does anything beyond the master, the problem will easily become more complicated. May I ask, what is the purpose of your looking for Rukia? Kurosaki Ichigo asked Yifeng with a solemn expression. Although Ichigo's personality is a bit carefree. But Kurosaki Ichigo is not the simple-minded type of Naruto and Luffy. He can feel it. Rukia might be in trouble. The purpose is very simple. Rukia violated the rules of the Soul Society. We came to this world this time to bring her back to accept punishment. Yifeng said truthfully. What rules did she violate? Just because she gave me the power of the god of death. But she did it to save people. Kurosaki Ichigo shouted at Yifeng. It's not as simple as you think, and I don't need to explain many things to you. Yifeng shrugged, looked at Ichigo and asked, by the way, it looks like you won't let us easily take her away. Of course, Rukia is my friend. I won't let her go back to the soul realm with you. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo's expression was solemn, his hands tightly holding his Zanpakuto, his eyes fixed on Yifeng. Although Kurosaki Ichigo didn't know Yakuza and Matsumoto Ranju, but he can feel that these two are very powerful. But no matter how powerful the opponent is, he wouldn't even watch what happened to Rukia. Very good, although in this incident, the Soul Society did not punish you as a human being, but since you obstructed the progress of the mission, then I will take action. Nightwind shrugged. Subsequently, when the voice fell, Yifeng's figure disappeared directly from the spot. Puff. Under the moonlight, fresh Yuhi's blood splashed up. Kurosaki Ichigo had no idea what was going on. He only felt severe pain in 2 places on his body. Immediately after, his vision began to blur. One fell down in a pool of blood. So fast. Matsumoto Ranju swallowed. Although Yifeng is not fast in some ways, the speed of the fight is really fast. His sleep and locks have been destroyed, and it can be regarded as fulfilling my promise to Kuchiki Byakuya. Yifeng said lightly. Actually, Yekas didn't mean to target Kurosaki Ichigo. Only. The power of death within Kurosaki Ichigo was not his own. Reluctantly staying in his body won't show his true power. So, even if Yifeng didn't get rid of him first, Urahara Kazuki would still get rid of him later. So, wouldn't it be nice to earn Kuchiki Byakuya's favor by the way? But, you wrecked him, how are we going to find Rukia? Matsumoto Ranju touched his chin. Don't worry, Rukia will come by herself in a while. Yifeng sat down and opened the eyes of the soul. In the eyes of the soul, he had already seen Rukia who was coming towards them. To be honest, the reason why Ichigo arrived first was just because he was too fast. Under normal circumstances, Rukia will still be buried with Ichigo. In addition, Yifeng also discovered Kazuki Urahara who was hiding in the spirit mask from the perspective of Soul Eye. He is also heading here. Then, Yifeng asked Ranju to simply use Wei Dao to treat Ichigo first. He himself sat on the side of the road and thought about some problems. Grim Reaper storyline. The night wind is generally relatively clear. The reason for the story is nothing more than the collapsing jade hidden in Rukia's body by Urahara Kazuki. But this conflict is typical though. But Feng always felt that the logic behind this was a bit problematic. Chapter 513 Urahara Kazuki's conspiracy. According to Urahara Kazuki, he hid Benyu in Rukia's body in a way of righteous Mukuro in order to better keep Benyu. But Urahara Kazuki clearly knew that there was not only one way to get the Benyu out of the soul. Isn't he worried that Aizen has conquered another method? And Benyu has been hidden in his hands for hundreds of years. Perfectly appropriate. Why did he suddenly swerve his sword and hide an important thing like Benyu in a Rukia's body? Generally speaking, shouldn't the more important things be held in your own hands? And it's like hiding in someone else's body. It's okay to sneak a random soul from the Ryahun street in the Soul Society. Why put it on Rukia? On the one hand, Rukia is the god of death of Gotei 13, and on the other hand, she is Kuchiki Byakuya's younger sister. The Soul Society is destined to be impossible to ignore her disappearance. So, Yifeng felt that behind all this unreasonable, it was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Think about it for a while. Finally, Rukia appeared in front of Yifeng. Reunion. Rukia's mood was extremely complicated. She looked at Kurosaki Ichigo who fell to the ground, her face suddenly lost its blood and turned pale. Rukia, long time no see. Yifeng looked at Rukia and smiled. Yifeng, ran Chrysanthemum, why are you here? Rukia glanced at them absent-mindedly, then stared blankly at Kurosaki Ichigo lying in a pool of blood, her mind blank. Why do you treat him like this? He's just an ordinary human being. This moment, Rukia felt extremely remorse in her heart. As Kuchiki Byakuya's sister-in-law, of course she knows the rules of the Soul Society very well. She knew that the Soul Society would not let her go. But Rukia never thought of betraying the Soul Society. She hid in Yoshimukuro because she wanted to use Yoshimukuro's ability to restrain spiritual sons to restore her spiritual power. Until she recovers, she can solve Ichigo's problem. Then find another reason to explain the reason for her disappearance to Seo Lingting. In the end, Rukia is a member of the nobility after all. As long as it is not a particularly serious fault, she will not be punished too severely. But Rukia knew that the special meaning Mukuro that Urahara Kazuki gave her is not to gather spiritual power. Rather, It dissipates spiritual power. She exists in this mysterious Mukuro. The more she can't recover. Finally, Rukia fell into Urahara Kazuki's layout. Rukia, it's your elder brother's intention to take back your power from this young man, don't blame Yifeng. Matsumoto Ranju shrugged and said, also, we just took back his death power, he again won't die. In the view of Matsumoto Ranju, Kurosaki Ichigo is an ordinary human being. So, it is also normal for him to restore his human body and return to his original life. Rukia, come with us, Urahara Kazuki is coming here, he won't let Ichigo cause problems, and you should face your own problems. Yifeng looked at Rukia and said, to be honest, I feel sorry for her. I see. Rukia lowered her eyes. When she distributed spiritual power to Kurosaki Ichigo without authorization, she had already thought of such a result. This is the iron law of the soul world. Only, Rukia did not expect this moment to appear so early. She didn't even think so. Yifeng actually shot and injured Yihu. Okay, let's go. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted the store manager's assistance in the first place. Rukia sighed. The reason why she was lucky was because she was afraid to return to the corpse-soul interface and face Kuchiki Byakuya. But the moment has finally come. Then, Matsumoto Ranju pulled out Zanpakuto, ready to open the gate of crossing the world. But right now, an azure blue spiritual light arrow suddenly shot from a distance. Wrapped in a strong wind. Whoosh! Matsumoto Ranju raised his brows slightly, turned sideways, and avoided the attack. Although it's not my style to shoot at women, but you hurt Ichigo Kurosaki and want to capture Rukia, I won't let you go so easily. The sound fell. Ishida Yulong, who was wearing a student uniform, came out of the shadows. His expression was indifferent. But there was anger in his eyes. Ishida, what are you doing here? Hurry up, it's none of your business here. When Rukia saw Ishida appear, she immediately yelled at him. Rukia, what is it that has nothing to do with me? Ichigo Kurosaki and you are my classmates after all. Ishida Yulong stretched out his index finger and pushed the frame on the bridge of his nose. In the worldview of Yulong Ishida, he and Kurosaki Ichigo are the strongest in this world. And he should be slightly stronger than Ichigo. So, how could he possibly see others bullying his classmates in front of him? Ah, looking at the bow and arrow in your hand, you should be a Quincy master, right? I can't believe that the Quincy master is still alive. It's the first time I've seen it. Matsumoto Ranju glanced at the weapon in Ishida's hand, his face a surprised look appeared. After all, she saw creatures that she usually only saw in textbooks. Humph! Death! How dare you say such a thing? How unreasonable! At this moment, the anger in Ishida Yulong's eyes has spread to his whole body. The story of the Quincy. Ishida Yuryu doesn't know Akatsuki very much. But Ishida Yulong knew that it was death who almost made the Quincy exterminate the clan. So, when Yuryu Ishida, a descendant of the Quincy, heard Renki Matsumoto, the god of death, mention this in front of him, Ishida Yulong was completely angry. He held the bow in his left hand and tightened the bowstring in his right hand, aiming in the direction of Matsumoto Ranju and Yeka's. Death, please remember that the person who defeated you is called Ishida Yulong, a great Quincy. Between words. On Ishida Yulong's bow and arrow, light blue spirits began to gather rapidly, and soon a blue spirit was condensed. See this scene. Rukia's expression turned terrified. She shouted at Ishida Yulong, Ishida, don't shoot, you will die. Although Ishida Yulong performed very well. But Rukia is very aware of Yefeng and Ranju's strength. In front of their power, Ishida Yulong's power is simply insignificant. But only Quincy in Kakuzucho. Proud of him. How could he listen to Rukia's persuasion? Then, there was a slight smile on the corner of his mouth, and he felt that he was already very good. Immediately after, Release the bowstring with the right hand. Chapter 514 Heaven and Earth, God's will is the greatest. Whoosh. A spiritual arrow with the thickness of a baby's arm shot out. Shot towards Yifeng and Matsumoto Ranju. See this scene. Rukia's heart froze completely. Yifeng, don't kill him. He's not a bad guy. Rukia shouted loudly. Now that Ishida Yulong has floated away. So, Rukia could only beg Yifeng for mercy on his behalf. But, at the same time, Yifeng has raised a finger. Boom. A blue shock wave bloomed from Yifeng's fingertips. Although this was the weakest ghost path, it still devoured Yulong Ishida's arrows and blasted him out. Puff. Ishida Yulong spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling as if he was hit by a heavy hammer on the chest, and his brain fell into a blank. Is this the true power of the god of death? He just raised his hand at will to be able to crush the full blow of his own Quincy master. Wrong. This must be the ultimate trick of the god of death. Otherwise, why has never seen a god of death use this trick to kill Shu? It must be so. I was defeated by death's most powerful move. Not too embarrassing either. Ishida, are you alright? Rukia quickly ran to Ishida Yulong's side, helped him up, and briefly checked. Ichigo was unconscious. Now Ishida Yulong Yi has a problem. Rukia thought she was a disaster. Don't worry, Rukia, for your sake, I have forcibly suppressed my power to the lowest level. If he can die, then I have nothing to do. Nightwind shrugged. Yifeng didn't particularly care about Ishida Yulong's life or death. But Yifeng cares about Rukia's feelings. Next, Rukia will face the darkest period of her life. Yifeng didn't want to add more psychological burden to her. This is Yifeng's kindness to Rukia. But Ishida Yulong, after listening to Yifeng's explanation, his self-esteem exploded instantly. The lowest power, death. Although I'm not your opponent, I can't allow you to insult my identity as a Quincy. Ishida Yulong struggled to stand up, the clothes on his chest were stained with blood, and rushed Yifeng let out a roar. But, in the night wind, Ishida Yulong's current strength is simply insignificant. Even kryptonite is useless. Then, a simple burst of spiritual pressure. The night wind directly crushed Ishida Yulong to the ground. Ishida Yulong felt Yifeng's amazing spiritual pressure, and he couldn't help but shudder deep in his heart. Is this the god of death? No wonder Quincy would fail. Yifeng walked slowly to Ishida Yulong. He pulled out the ghost. He glanced in the direction of the shadow slightly playfully. President Urahara, if you don't come out again, do you think I will kill him? Yifeng raised the corner of his mouth and smiled lightly. Subsequently, Urahara Kazuki really came out from behind the door of the coffee shop on the corner. Aiya, I can't believe Yifeng-kun's spiritual sense is so powerful that it doesn't even work in front of you with a spiritual mask. Urahara Kazuki walked over to Ichigo with a calm smile. I checked Ichigo's situation. Kurosaki Ichigo is not only special to Aizen, but also special to Urahara Kazuki. The reason is the same. Because Kurosaki Ichigo has a variety of powers in his body. Urahara Kazuki also sees him as a secret weapon. As for Ishida Yulong, because of his father Ishida Longxian, Urahara Kazuki couldn't watch him die here either. Spirit cover clothes are indeed a good thing. There are also several captains in the Soul Society. They like to wear them to do some bad things. Sometimes I really envy them, so how about giving me one too? The night breeze said lightly. Be honest. Yifeng was really interested in Ling mask clothing. Even with Yifeng's control of spiritual power, spiritual pressure can be restrained. However, the convergent Reiatsu can still be sensed by the master. Most of the time. This will cause some trouble for the night wind. So, he has long wanted to get an illegal equipment such as a spiritual mask. Ah, well, yes, but Lingbao clothes are very complicated to make. It may take me a certain amount of time to do it. Urahara Kazuki pressed down on the brim of his hat, revealing a strange look in his eyes, and said, "By the way, Yifeng-kun just said that there are other people in the Guardian 13 team who also have spirit masks. I don't know which captains they are. Ling mask clothing is a prohibited item in the Soul Realm. And it is not an easy task to create a spiritual cover. According to Urahara Kazuki, in the realm of corpses, there are only 2 people who can make such contraband. One is the current captain of the 12th Division, Ni Yuri. The other can only be Aizen Soyusuke." He was curious about what Yifeng knew. "No need to try, Urahara Kazuki, just the ones you think." Yifeng didn't explain much. Although he is very interested in this game of chess played by Aizen and Urahara Kazuki. But he had no interest in getting involved. From start to finish, he was only interested in signing up for pickup girls to drink. "Oh, well then, I promise you will make one for you as compensation for leaving the 2 of them alive." Urahara Kazuki touched his chin. Although he was not particularly sure who Yifeng was referring to. But Urahara Kazuki felt that Yifeng must know something. Perhaps Yifeng will also be an important helper for him to defeat Aizen. "Okay, let's go." Yifeng waved his hand. That's it. After the 2 of them said a few words indifferently, Matsumoto Renku uses Zanpakuto to open the gate of crossing the world. The brown door opened. A white light shone out. Rukia turned her head and glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Yuryu who were lying on the ground. Sighed. "From now on, they and I are people from 2 worlds. Let them go back to their original simple life, and don't tell them about the soul world." Rukia looked at Urahara Kazuki and said, "Well, don't worry, I will take good care of them." Urahara Kazuki waved his hand and said goodbye to Rukia. In Rukia's view, the lives of Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Yuryu were broken by her. As long as she gets out of here, they can go back to normal life. But how does she know? Whether it is her or them, they are all pawns in the hands of others. This game of chess does not change because of her presence or absence. Because master of the fate of the chess piece is in the hands of the chess player. But what about chess players? Are they not pawns? Does Aizen Sosuke really think that he can stand on the cloud and become a god? In the night wind. This is a very funny thing. In the end, heaven and earth are the greatest will of heaven. This is not a joke. Chapter 515 You 2 are great. Boundary. The 3 Yifeng silently walked side by side in the broken world. Rukia and Matsumoto Ranju both had mixed feelings. If Rukia wasn't there, Matsumoto Ranju is actually something that really hopes to play a little thorn with Yifeng in the broken world. After all, some things seem to be a simple process. But different environments, different occasions. The experience is completely different. But Rukia was by their side now. Although Matsumoto Ranju wanted to be impulsive, but didn't have this chance. Unless Rukia is willing to join in too. But Matsumoto Ranki also knew that this was absolutely impossible. Now, Rukia's mood was also complicated. She knew that after she returned to the Soul Realm, she would no longer be a member of the Guardian 13. She is a sinner. The sinner who trampled on the rules of the Soul Society. So, Rukia felt very depressed. Rukia, don't worry, the situation is not as bad as you think. I will still take you to the world to have fun in the future. Yifeng smiled and comforted Rukia. Although Rukia will then be sentenced to death and then locked up in the penitentiary palace to die. But Rukia's ending was not tragic. It's just that the process is a bit boring. So, Yifeng felt that he had to give Rukia some warmth during these days. Ah, I'm not worried, anyway, it's a big deal, but it's unlikely to go to the world to play in the future. Rukia smiled. The smile is warm. But everyone understands that this kind of smile is forced out. To be honest, Rukia also understood that Yifeng was just comforting her. She didn't want Yifeng to be worried because of her. What, Rukia, don't worry, after all, your eldest brother is Captain Kuchiki. Matsumoto Ranju smiled enchantingly, although Kuchiki Byakuya looked cold, but Ranju felt that Kuchiki Byakuya should not watch his adopted sister die. Bar. Hey, Ranju, Yifeng, you don't understand my big brother, he will never save me. Rukia silently shook her head. In her life. In the first half of her life, she spent the first half of her life wandering in Liuhun Street. She was finally admitted to the True Spiritual Arts Academy with her own efforts. However, because of her sister she had never met, she somehow became Kuchiki Byakuya's righteous sister and became a nobleman among the nobles. A member. After that, she was very unhappy. Rukia has always wanted to prove herself in front of Kuchiki Byakuya. She wanted to appear in front of Byakuya Kuchiki in the form of Rukia Kuchiki, instead of being shrouded in the shadow of her sister Hijina Kuchiki all the time. But now, she has failed completely. In Rukia's view, Kuchiki Byakuya must be extremely disappointed in her. It will never save her. Oh, Rukia, don't be like this, you have to believe everyone. I think Yifeng can definitely take us to the world to be happy in the future, I have a hunch. Matsumoto Ranju put his arms around Rukia's shoulders and smiled, comforted. To this, Yifeng couldn't help pinching his nose. These two girls. One tall and one short. One is fat and the other is thin. One is as warm as fire and the other as gentle as water. It's just ice and fire. If you add a crushed bee that is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, it might be interesting to go out and play in the world together after that. ... The end of the boundary. The quaint world crossing gate opened again. Yifeng took the two girls out of the boundary. Return to Saraiti. Look at the familiar surroundings around you. Rukia took a deep breath. Yes. One cannot live without dreams. What Yifeng said on the road was right. Even if the salted fish turns over, it is still a salted fish. Only dreams can truly change the fate. Then, Rukia's favorability toward Yifeng finally reached the 80-point mark. Although it can only be locked by the system if it reaches 87 points of favorability. But, at this time, Rukia already likes the night wind. Next, Yifeng personally arranged Rukia into the Palace of Penance. After all, this is the place of the night wind. He asked the members of the 9th Division to clean up the cells as comfortable as a hotel, and instructed them to do a good job in serving Rukia. Although the team members in charge of guards were not very happy. But, outside the door is his own acting captain. Inside the door is Kuchiki Byakuya's righteous sister. They can't provoke anyone. Can only act as a waiter. This kind of treatment. It can't be regarded as custody at all, it can only be regarded as temporary isolation. After arranging Rukia's affairs, Yifeng took Matsumoto Ranju to go to the first team again. They briefly explained Rukia's situation to Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni. Yifeng, Luanju, you two performed very well on this mission, thank you for your hard work. The old man Yamamoto nodded, expressing his satisfaction with the efficiency of Yifeng and Luanju's mission. To know. The gods of death from the Gote 13 team would not be allowed to enter the world easily. So, follow previous experience. Except for the members of the 13th Division, those Shinigami who were temporarily assigned to perform special tasks in the present world would more or less find an excuse to stay in the present world for a while and enjoy life in this world. But Yifeng and Luanju were able to complete the task so efficiently. Get things done. This makes the captain feel very gratified. It's not really hard work. After all, although the process was a bit hard, it made me feel very fulfilled, and the results also made us very satisfied. Matsumoto Ranju smiled sweetly, not wanting to grab the credit at all. Of course, this is thanks to the efforts of Vice Captain Yifeng. Quote. No, Luanju is also very good. I am also very satisfied with your performance. You don't need to belittle yourself. Yifeng smiled modestly. He and Matsumoto Ranju looked at each other. Then nodded at the same time. It means. I already understand what you said. Shigekuni Yamamoto Uenyanagi saw the two people being humble to each other. He thinks he understands too. He felt even more relieved in his heart. After all, pride makes you retreat, humility makes you progress. Young people who know how to be humble are very rare. Very good, both of you are excellent talents of Shiratsu. I hope you can continue to work hard in the future, persevere, and bring your modest spirit back to your respective teams, so that more people can be as good as you. The commander-in-chief smiled with satisfaction. Talent. Rare talent. God's will is really not thin in the soul world. He even sent an outstanding talent like Yifeng. Hope he can communicate more with others. Bring humility to everyone. That, Captain. Matsumoto Ranju heard the word. In the future, his face suddenly turned Yuhi, and quickly began to change the subject. Excuse me. What kind of punishment will Rukia face this time? Chapter 516 _ It's more delicious to eat. Heard this question raised by Matsumoto Ranju. The smile on Yamamoto Motoyanagi's face gradually disappeared. Rukia Kuchiki was attacked by a virtual sneak, and in order to survive, she gave her death power to humans, and secretly hid in the specially made Mukuro, trying to get away with it. It is a death penalty. Quote. Yamamoto Motoyanagi said in a low voice. Although the 46th room in the center has not yet made a characterization and judgment on Rukia's matter. But, in the eyes of old man Yamamoto, Rukia should be sentenced to death. But, Rukia also gave her spiritual power to humans in order to save people, and the righteous Mukuro is not her own. It was manipulated by others. She is also a victim. Matsumoto Ranju explained another sentence for Rukia. Vice Captain Matsumoto, there is no need to say more about this matter. Captain Yamamoto shook his head and said, how to judge Rukia's crime, the Central 46th Office will decide, even if you want to plead with the old man. Use. In the view of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni. The Shinigami of Gotei 13. To die is to die. Never fear death. No matter what kind of predicament you are in, you cannot ignore the rules. This is the bottom line. Forget about Ranju, let's talk about Rukia in the future. I believe she will have a happy ending. Yifeng shook his head. Just as Yamamoto Yuan Lusai Shigekuni said. Rukia's judgment is the responsibility of the Central 46th Room. And the 46th room in the center has now fallen into the hands of Aizen Soyusuke. So, the process is already predetermined. Although the Central 46 room was founded by Yamamoto Motoyasu Shigekuni. Today, the old man Yamamoto can still stand above the head of the Central 46 room. But, on many things, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saijokuni would not interfere with them. Because, that's the rule. Rules he made up himself. Deputy Captain Yefeng is right, Rukia's affair will have a happy ending. The old man Yamamoto nodded. But, the consummation of old man Yamamoto is different from the consummation that Yifeng refers to. In the eyes of Captain Yamamoto, pursuing guilt with punishment is the perfect result. ... Leave the first team. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yifeng with a worried look on his face. Yefeng, will Rukia really be sentenced to death? Is there no turning point? Matsumoto Ranju sighed. Well, it's possible. Yifeng stopped, looked at Lu Anju and said, don't think too much, the Central 46 room should soon make a judgment on Rukia, but no matter what the result is, you have to remember, anything can happen until the last minute. Quote. Well, I see. Matsumoto Ranju nodded obediently, looked at Yefeng affectionately, and said, then. I'll go back to the 10th division first, but what should we do in the future? Said here. Matsumoto Ranju lowered his head with a showy Yuhi face. The meaning is self-evident. That's right. She is still craving someone's body at night. This is simple, if you miss me, you can come to the 9th division to find me at any time. Yifeng shrugged. Sending you the fundamental chaos Jew is only a vice captain in the 10th division. On top of his head is Hitsugaya Toshiro. If they go to the 10th team to meet, many things are not particularly convenient. But the 9th division is Yifeng's territory. He can do whatever he wants in the 9th division. No one can control him. Okay, then I understand, you wait for me. A bright light flashed in Matsumoto Ranju's eyes. Yes. The 9th squad is a prison squad. There are all kinds of cells out there. The props are also very rich. Be quite stinging. Then, the two of you will be separated from each other after a while. That night, Yifeng really took Matsumoto Ranju to play a cosplayer with very rich knowledge. The next day, Rooster broke in Akatsuki. After Matsumoto Ranju used Weidao to remove some strawberry-shaped traces on his body. Secretly left the 9th division. Back to the 10th squad. This kind of secret behavior makes Luanju very excited. As the night wind said. Eat stealthily. Isn't it Zheng incense? Early morning. Rebirth. Yifeng was about to go back to the bedroom to take a nap. At this time, Yifeng suddenly felt that the sky above the entire soul realm was suddenly filled with a majestic ghost spirit pressure. In the sky, it was as if a large net of Reiatsu in the shape of a thunderbolt appeared. The sky is quite empty. Looks like Rukia's verdict should be handed down. Yifeng shook his head and sat up from the bed. Really? It didn't take long. A solemn voice sounded in the ears of all the gods of death at the same time. Attention to all members of Seraiti. This old man is Yamamoto Moto Ryusai Shigekuni, and I am now conveying to you the verdict on Kuchiki Rukia just issued by the 46th Room of the Central Government. Actually, according to common sense, a public judgment like this generally does not require the commander-in-chief to issue it in person. The first team can just find a chairperson. Worst, the vice captain is enough. But this time Rukia's behavior obviously made old man Yamamoto quite dissatisfied. So, he personally issued this decision, but also to give all the gods of death a warning. That is, the rules of the Soul Society are not to be violated. Rukia Kuchiki, a former member of the 13th Division, secretly distributed spiritual power to humans in the present world, and used the righteous Mukuro to try to deceive the sky. This behavior is a serious violation of the rules of the Soul Society. The decision has been discussed in the 46th Room of the Central Committee. Rukia Kuchiki will be sentenced to death in a month's time. I hope all the gods of death in Seranje can take this as a warning. Strictly abide by the rules of the Soul Society. Don't cross the line. Captain Yamamoto's voice fell. The ghost spirit in the sky disappeared. The sky is clear again. But the gods of death in the entire Seraiti were all shocked. 13th Division. Shuru Yukitaki's brows furrowed tightly. The news came so suddenly. Make him completely unbelievable. Rukia is also a noble. Although she is only the righteous sister of Byakuya Kuchiki, she is also the eldest young lady of the Kuchiki family. Why did the Central 46th Room make the death sentence so bluntly? Just when Yukitaki Shuru was thinking. Xiaochun Sentaro and Toru Qingyan rushed directly into Shiruro Yukitaki's room. Captain. You just heard it. Although Rukia's actions are against the law, it shouldn't be subject to a double trial. Yes, Captain. After Rukia joined our 13th Division, she performed diligently every time she performed a mission. There was no credit or hard work. You must help Rukia and not let her die. Chapter 517_Poor Kuchiki Byakuya. Zentaro Katsubaki and Toru Kiyoshi were discussing with a heavy heart in Shiro Yukitaki's room. Obviously, neither of them wanted anything to happen to Rukia. Cough cough cough. Shiro Yukitake looked at the two officers in front of him. There was also a look of sadness on his face. He suddenly coughed violently. Captain, don't get excited, have a drink first. See. Toru Chingyun hurriedly passed a glass of warm water to Shiro Yukitake. After the floating bamboo drinks water. The cough finally eased a little. Captain, it's all our fault. We knew that the captain's health was not good, so we came to trouble the captain early in the morning. Puche sighed in a clear voice, and then said unwillingly, but Rukia she won't die. Be honest. Although death secretly distributes spiritual power to human beings is a serious sin. But, in the long history of the Soul Society, there has never been a case like Rukia's. So, since there is no precedent, it stands to reason that the verdict against Rukia can definitely be manipulated flexibly. Hey. Shiro Yukitake let out a long sigh. I didn't expect the 46th room of the central office to make a verdict so quickly. I went to the teacher yesterday, but I was reprimanded by the teacher. I went to Byakuya Kuchiki, and I was closed. There was nothing I could do. Shiro Yukitake is Rukia's captain and has always taken care of Rukia. He naturally didn't want Rukia to be sentenced to death. But Yamamoto Motoyanagi's character is quite stubborn. What he had already decided would not change easily. Not to mention that this decision was not made by Captain Yamamoto. Even if he really let him decide, he would also definitely sentence Rukia to death. This is something that is completely out of the question. Compared with Yamamoto Yuan Lu Saiju, Shiruro Yukitake really couldn't understand Kuchiki Byakuya's performance. He didn't understand what Kuchiki Byakuya wanted to do. At first, in order to protect Rukia, Kuchiki Byakuya did not even let Yukitake arrange the position of the chairperson for Rukia. What happened now? Did he just ignore it? What a deformed brother-sister relationship. At this moment, within the jurisdiction of the 6th Division, a Sanjing Renji rushed into Kuchiki Byakuya's yard. He bit Kiba. Kuchiki Byakuya's door was smashed open with a punch. Captain Kuchiki, you are the head of the dignified Kuchiki family. Captain of the 6th Division. Why don't you help Rukia to beg for mercy? Do you remember what you said when you took Rukia from the True Spirit Academy? You said you would take good care of her. Is that how you take care of her? As Sanjing Renji's eyes burned with anger. He knew that Rukia had made a big mistake, and he knew that Rukia had been arrested and returned. But Raiji was never in a hurry. Because she is Kuchiki Rukia after all. Kuchiki Byakuya's sister. The eldest lady of the Kuchiki family. How could something happen to her? But after the judgment of the 46th room of the central office came out, as Sanjing Renji was shocked. Isn't it said that the 46th room in the center is the back garden of the nobles? The Kuchiki family is the leader of the 4 great nobles. Why did they sentence Rukia to death? No face at all. Renji Asanjing couldn't understand the operation of the nobles at all. So, after receiving the notification from Tianning Kongluo, Asane Renji immediately ran to Kuchiki Byakuya to question him. If it was before. If Asane Renji dared to speak loudly in front of Kuchiki Byakuya, he will definitely reprimand Renji. But this time, Kuchiki Byakuya did not speak. He sat blankly behind the desk, silently looking at the word, quiet, on the desk. Captain. You have to say something. Now only you can save Rukia. Asane Renji growled and walked to the front of the desk. But when Renji saw that Kuchiki Byakuya's clenched fists were already leaking blood, Raiji was stunned. Renji could see that Kuchiki Byakuya's expression was indifferent. But his heart must be very painful. Is the crime that Rukia committed this time really so serious? Is it so serious that even Kuchiki Byakuya can't do anything about it? Rukia. Is it really going to die? Palace of Penance. Kuchiki Rukia looked through the window of the fourth prison and looked at the Shuangshan on the opposite Shuangshan hill. The expression is slightly complicated. Did the verdict come so quickly? I'm really disappointed to see Big Brother Kuchiki. Rukia shook her head. Although she was mentally prepared. But he didn't expect the judgment of the 46th room of the central office to come so quickly. This didn't even consider Kuchiki Rukia's identity at all. In Rukia's view, this behavior can only illustrate one problem. That is, her eldest brother Kuchiki Byakuya must have instructed the central 46 room not to consider her identity. Otherwise, the 46th room in the center can't be so inhumane. Just when Rukia was thinking about it, Yifeng's voice suddenly sounded outside the cell. Rukia, didn't I tell you not to think nonsense? Things are not as bad as you thought. Yifeng opened the cell, walked into the fourth deep cell, sat next to Rukia and watched with him with double death. What? They're all going to be killed by Shuangshang. You're still comforting me that it's not that bad. Rukia smiled bitterly. Isn't that bad? It's not bad if they were all killed. So what's bad? What are you afraid of? Isn't there a month before the execution of the double death penalty? This month is enough for a lot of things to happen. Yifeng looked at Rukia and said with a half-smiling smile. Yifeng, what do you mean by that? Rukia looked at Yifeng with a strange expression and asked, why do I sometimes feel like I can't see through you at all? Who are you? What kind of person? For Night Wind. Rukia always felt that he was mysterious. When she first met Yifeng, she thought Yifeng was a scumbag. But it turns out, he is indeed a scumbag who is biased towards women. However, such Yifeng actually chose the 9th team when choosing the team. Rukia couldn't figure it out. And now, the 46 rooms in the center have made a clear judgment on her. And this verdict was announced by the commander-in-chief to the entire Saraiti with the help of Sky Ting Kong Luo. How could there be any change? But Rukia could see a kind of confidence in Yifeng's eyes. She felt that Yifeng was not joking. He seemed to really think things were going to turn around. At this point, Rukia couldn't figure it out. Chapter 518_Warden and Female Prisoner. What kind of person I am, you will naturally understand in the future. Now, just listen to me. In my confessional palace hotel, eat well, drink well, sleep well, take good care of yourself, and fight for you to sell the airport. Quote. Hearing Yifeng's teasing voice, Rukia's face turned into AQ version directly. Asshole. What the hell are you talking about? What happened to the airport? What's wrong with being smaller? How can you know that small is not good if you haven't tried it? Hear this. Yifeng couldn't help falling into contemplation. Rukia is right. He has known big girls all his life. All kinds of big. Really never experienced a small one. Perhaps. Small really don't have a good taste. Okay. Then let's talk about it later. ... Happy days always feel very short. For Matsumoto Ranju. Half a month went by in a flash. In this period, Matsumoto Ranju and Yifeng often go in and out of the confession palace. Probably to appease Rukia. Rukia also had a very pleasant time. In the fourth prison, the standard of treatment that Rukia enjoys is very high. If only she didn't see the Shuangshan on the opposite hill of Shuangshan every day. Rukia almost thought she was here on vacation. This day, Yifeng and Luanju ended the little game between the warden and the female prisoners according to the daily rhythm. They are preparing to separate. At this time, the soul-searching bell in Saranjay suddenly made a sound. Yifeng and Matsumoto Ranju looked at each other. The soul-searching bell rang, which means that there is a crooked reaction in the soul society. I have to go back quickly. Later, all divisions should be under martial law. Matsumoto Ranju looked into the distance with a solemn look. Well, let's go. Yifeng nodded and opened the chain on Luanju's body. The soul-searching bell is an instrument specially used to detect crooked reactions. It can detect the spatial fluctuations caused by the corpse and soul world through abnormal means. And when this reaction occurs, generally, it also means that there are souls smuggled into the soul world from other interfaces. This kind of soul is called travel disaster in the corpse soul world. So, at this juncture, the travel disaster that will come to the soul world is probably only Kurosaki Ichigo and them. According to Yi Feng's memory, after Rukia was captured back to the soul realm, with the help of Kazuki Urahara, Ichigo Kurosaki successfully awakened the power of death that belonged to him in his body. Ishida Yulongyi gave himself some special training. They thought they might have done it again. So, with the assistance of Urahara Kazuki, they will open the gate of crossing the boundary, cross the boundary, and smuggle to Shiryu Soul Street. Prepare to break directly into Seraiti to save people. Looks like it. The windmill of the soul world is finally about to start turning. Yifeng nodded in relief. Anything. It's only interesting to move. Lying still is really boring. After the soul-searching bell made 18 resounding chimes, the atmosphere of the entire Gotei 13 team became tense. To be honest, the Shinigami of Gotei 13 is the Grandmaster Zengquan Onago. But their actual combat opportunities are not particularly many. So, encounter such a situation, many players are still a little nervous. Fifth Squad. Ichimaru Silver was discussing serious business with him in Aizen's study. Hear the news of the Calamity invasion. Ichimaru Silver looked at Aizen with a smile and asked, Captain Aizen, Kazuki Urahara seems to have settled down. What about you, how are you going to deal with it? Ichimaru Silver has never been to this world. But Aizen Soyusuke has been observing the growth of Kurosaki Ichigo using the virtual. So, Ichimaru Silver also knew about Kurosaki Ichigo. From what I know about them, they will definitely choose to enter directly from the gate when they first arrive. So, go to the Beta Iman on Zilyuhun Street and stop them from entering. Aizen smiled lightly. Traveling to Trouble Seraiti is a very important part of Aizen's plan. As long as they will fall out with the Seraiti. So, the Gotei 13 team's attention will all be attracted by the misfortune. And that is the best moment for Aizen to execute his plan. But Aizen is not quite ready yet. He couldn't let Kurosaki Ichigo break into Seraiti now. Besides, the strength of Gotei 13 is not weak. Kurosaki Ichigo and the others couldn't break into Seraiti in this way. Otherwise, they will soon be defeated and captured by Gotei 13. So, Aizen was going to arrange for Ichimaru Silver to wait for them at Beta Iman, and they would repel them directly, forcing them to invade a second time in a more gorgeous way. And with Aizen's understanding of them. After Kurosaki Ichigo's first defeat, Saifa Yuan Yei will definitely take them to find their old friend Zebo Kong. Shiba Sora's flower crane cannon can break through the soul-shrouding membrane of Seranje. So, that kind of intrusion was what Aizen really needed. Palace of Penance. Yifeng did not leave immediately after sending Matsumoto Ranju away. He came to Rukia's cell again. Yifeng, what happened outside? It seems that the soul-searching bell is ringing. Rukia asked curiously. Well, yes, if my guess is correct, it should be Ichigo and the others who came to the soul world from the present world and want to save you. Yifeng smiled lightly, looked at Rukia and said, Look, I can't say at the last minute, anything can happen. Hear Yifeng's words. Rukia was stunned on the spot. After 3 or 5 breaths, a worried look appeared on Rukia's face. Yifeng, then go and stop them. What kind of place is Seraiti? If Ichigo and the others try to force their way into Seraiti, they will definitely die here. Rukia grabbed Yifeng's arm. She had already implicated Ichigo on them. Rukia didn't want to hurt them a second time. And this time, There is a real chance that they will die. Lucia, calm down, didn't I tell you? Don't panic, just take a sip of wine and talk about it. Yifeng took out the wine glass, poured 2 glasses of wine, drank it, and said, "Don't worry, Ichigo and the others can't get in this time, someone has already stopped them, there will be no problem." Although the Repentance Palace can cut off the spiritual pressure and spiritual sense. But, in the eyes of the soul, Yifeng has been paying attention to the situation on the Beta side. Ichimaru Silver has already rushed over. Next, Ichimaru Silver will repel Kurosaki Ichigo. And after that, as planned by Aizen's plan, Sifenjin Yaiki takes Ichigo to find Shiasora, and with the help of Shiasora's flower crane cannon, re-invades Saraiti. And that's when the good drama really kicks in. Chapter 519 _ Meeting. The next day, the 13th team of Gote has completed the inspection work inside and outside the Saraiti. But they can never find where the misfortune is hidden. This afternoon, Yifeng received an invitation for all the captains to go to the first team to participate in the Travel Disaster Combat meeting. Outside the door of the first team meeting room, Yifeng met Broken Bee again. This time, even the Night Wind felt something was wrong. How can they be so clever every time? Is it fate that made them meet? Yamanaka Yifeng, do you think it makes sense to do this? Every time I arrive at the venue at the same time, can you not play with such ridiculous thoughts? Broken Bee looked at Yifeng with cold eyes. Although her favorability for Yifeng was already hovering around 80. But, on the surface, Broken Bee will not expose this emotion in front of Yifeng. She couldn't let Yifeng's annoying guy know what she really thought. Otherwise, Broken Bee felt that his personality had collapsed. But it is a pity. Yifeng's plug-in has already pinched her favorability. Just about to lock the door. That's it. Captain Broken Bee, I assure you from my own personality that I definitely did not deliberately create a chance encounter. It may be God's will, and there is nothing I can do. Night Wind shrugged, looking at the Broken Bee seriously. Heaven and earth are the greatest will of heaven. Gods will let us meet, and let him open a harem at night, what can he do? Can only reluctantly accept. Humph. Broken Bee let out a cold snort. I did not continue to pay attention to the Night Wind. Open the door. The two entered the venue side by side again. Tisk tisk tisk, Captain Ujawa, have you noticed? The two seem to have quarreled less frequently recently. Could something happen to them? Jingle Chunchui turned to the side, and asked quietly in the ear of Unokalai. The handsome men and beautiful women are still single. Isn't it normal for something to happen? Ujawali shook his head indifferently, and then asked Toshiro Hitsugaya next to him. Captain Hitsugaya, I heard that your vice captain, Ranju Matsumoto, has been going to the Confession Palace recently. She won't have any problems with Yifeng, will she? What's wrong with her? She just went there to visit that Kuchiki Rukia, and has nothing to do with that Yamanaka Yifeng. Hitsugaya Toshiro shook his head indifferently. In Hitsugaya Toshiro's view, don't look at Matsumoto Ranju, who usually dresses up very openly. That's all because her strength doesn't allow her to keep a low profile. Let go of superficialities. Matsumoto Renki is essentially an honest man. So, what could be wrong with her? It's so rare. But, if Yifeng knew this idea of Hitsugaya Toshiro, he would probably pouted in denial. Yes, there is definitely no problem between Vice Captain Ranju and Vice Captain Yifeng. Ichimaru Silver also added with a smile. To be frank, recently, the frequency of Matsumoto Ranju going to the Confession Palace is indeed a bit high. So, Ichimaru Silver also wondered if there was something wrong between her and Yifeng. Due to this reason, Ichimaru Silver also secretly inquired about it. He has infiltrated the Palace of Confession many times wearing a lingerie garb. But Ichimaru Silver didn't notice that Yifeng and Ranju were acting wrong. But naturally, Yifeng had already discovered Ichimaru Silver, who had infiltrated with his soul's eye. Then, Ichimaru Silver naturally added a lot of fun to the small game between Yifeng and Ranju. This is probably why Ichimaru Silver always felt a little uncomfortable on his scalp. With the arrival of the Night Wind and Broken Bees, all the captains of Gotei 13 have finally arrived. Since the captains have arrived, today's meeting can officially begin. After Yamamoto Motoyanagi said, he glanced at Ichimaru Silver and said in a deep voice, "Ichimaru Silver Captain, please come out." The old man Yamamoto's voice was low, although it doesn't seem to have any emotion. But everyone knew that the old man was not happy again. As for why, everyone knows it too. Mostly because Ichimaru Silver let the misfortune escape. Let me go out alone. Is there any important task for the Commander-in-Chief? Do you want to assign it to the 3rd Division? But the 3rd Division is a support division. I don't seem to have heard of any team that needs support recently. Ichimaru Silver walked out of the team with a smile at a random pace. Standing between the two captains, opposite to Yamamoto Motoyanagi Sayakukuni, Captain Ichimaru Silver. Put away your fake smile. Don't you really know what the old man means by naming you? As soon as the old man Yamamoto finished speaking, he tapped the stick in his hand toward the ground. Boom. The heavy voice seemed to hit the hearts of everyone present. Have I done something wrong recently? Ichimaru Silver raised his head and touched his chin, revealing an unpredictable smile, as if he was reminiscing. I see. Could it be that what the captain said was that I didn't catch a few mishaps at Beta-Imen yesterday? But you can't blame me, can you? At this time, Zaragi Kenpachi looked at Ichimaru Silver with a displeased expression and said, Hey, don't you play tricks here, okay? It's just a few misfortunes. You are a captain, can't you keep one of them? The reason why Zaragi Kenpachi is upset is not because he wants to target Ichimaru Silver. He was upset for a reason. After all, fighting maniacs like Zaragi Kenpachi. Could it be possible to encounter Shiratsu, who was invaded by a travel disaster? So, of course he hopes to have a good fight with the travel disaster. Result: he hasn't arrived at Beta-Imen yet. Ichimaru Silver actually drove the misfortune out of Saraiti. So, Zaraki Kenpachi will naturally feel a little uncomfortable. Captain Zaraki doesn't know anything. To be honest, the strength of the few people involved in this invasion is really strong. I think we should pay attention to it. Ichimaru Silver shrugged indifferently, then patted the back of his head as if embarrassed. By the way, looking at your eyes, are you suspecting that I let them go on purpose? Ichimaru Silver spoke the truth with a calm expression. Captain Ichimaru Silver, even though as you said, the strength of those traveling disasters is indeed not weak, but when you are not injured, why don't you chase them out in person? Can't you catch up with those traveling disasters with your strength? Kuchiki Byakuya's voice was cold. Although he thinks that the accident has little to do with the 6th Division. But there is no way. The family's sister has just been sentenced to death. He was not in a particularly good mood. Just want to bully people. Chapter 520_Secondary Invasion. Oops. Quote. Captain Kuchiki is indeed the leader of the nobles. Such a good idea came to mind all of a sudden. Why didn't I think of it at the time? Maybe this is the gap between me and you. Ichimaru Silver still had a smile on his face. His words sounded like self-blame. But everyone knows. This guy must be excusing himself. Captain Ichimaru Silver. As the captain of the 3rd Division of Gotei 13, don't you even have the most basic safety awareness? I don't think you might be qualified to be captain. So, why don't you step down and let the virtuous? My subordinate Asane Renji, Benkai Master, has been very good recently. Maybe he can take over as the captain of the 3rd Division. Anyway, your 3rd Division has nothing serious to do. Now this time. What Kuchiki Byakuya hated most was that someone mentioned the word, noble, in front of him. Because one mentioned this, Kuchiki Byakuya would think about Rukia. Very uncomfortable. Ah, our 3rd division has nothing serious to do, so what about your 6th division? It doesn't seem to be serious, right? Ichimaru Silver shrugged indifferently. Hit back. Support troops though 10-10 is no big deal. But the noble squad still drinks tea and writes every day. That's it. Seeing the scene is about to become chaotic. Yamamoto Yuan Luzai Changguo finally couldn't bear it any longer. His pupils shrank, and a chilling aura rose to the sky. The breadth of his whole body was like a sea, and it was as majestic as 100,000 mountains. Pressure. Enough. You two are the captains of Gotei 13. Why make a fuss like a shrew in front of the old man? Don't you think your performance is too ugly now? Hearing the reprimand of Captain Yamamoto, Ichimaru Silver and Kuchiki Byakuya finally quieted down. Then, the old man Yamamoto glanced deeply at Ichimaru Silver. Captain Ichimaru Silver, no matter what the reason is for you to let the misfortune escape, all in all, as the captain of the Gotei 13, you let the misfortune escape right in front of your eyes. This is a dereliction of duty. There is nothing to explain. In the eyes of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni, regardless of whether Ichimaru Silver escaped from misfortune because of insufficient strength, or because he thought too much about the problem. All in all, since Ichimaru Silver appeared in Beta-Iman at that time, he is the captain. You should be responsible for catching the calamity. Can't let them go. Not even to die. And now, a group of daring gangs who dared to invade Saraiti hide in Ryahun Street. Although it seems calm now. But who can guarantee that they will not do anything more outrageous later? How would the people of Ryugu Street talk about the Gotei 13 team? So, for such behavior, Yamamoto Motoyanagi was very dissatisfied. Since that's the case, I don't seem to have anything to explain. Ichimaru Silver shrugged and said, this is indeed my negligence. I have nothing to say and am willing to accept the punishment. Very good. Shame is close to courage. You can recognize your own shortcomings. This is also a kind of progress. Listening to Ichimaru Silver admitting his guilt, the old man Yamamoto nodded and said, but if you make a mistake, you will be punished. Punishment, so this old man's punishment for you is. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Saigakuni was about to publicly express his punishment to Ichimaru Silver. But, just at this time, a melodious alarm sound suddenly floated in the sky of the Soul Realm. Baby tilde baby tilde baby tilde. Hear this voice. The captains raised their eyebrows. Because this sound is amazing. Once the Technology Development Bureau issued such an alarm sound, it meant that the soul-shrouding membrane of Seo Lingting was forcibly broken through. It seems that those misfortunes from yesterday have come back, and they have adopted a more provocative way. Aizen Sosuke pushed the frame on the bridge of his nose, looked at Ichimaru Silver and said lightly, Captain Ichimaru Silver, it's all because of your negligence. Ah, since that's the case, I need to take guilt and make merit. Ichimaru Silver shrugged with a smile. The second Calamity invasion was the real start of their plan. Next. They are quite busy. At this time, Captain Yamamoto also stood up from his chair. He stared solemnly into the distance. Saraiti is very big. If the brigade was invading from the main entrance, then they might be easy to find. But if the opponent chooses to invade from the air, so once they enter Saraiti, it becomes very difficult to search. Things have gotten a little more serious. The situation is urgent, and today's meeting will stop here. Regarding the punishment of Captain Ichimaru Silver, we will wait until the end of this Calamity invasion before making other arrangements. Yamamoto Motoyanagi said in a deep voice. Okay, then I'll go first. If it's too late, I might escape from misfortune again. The corner of Zanaki Jonpachi's mouth twitched, revealing a high fighting spirit. This gang of misfortunes can do it. After failing to invade from the main entrance, he even played a high-end invasion. For such an opponent, Zaraki Kenpachi expressed great expectations. Yeah, this travel disaster is really worrying. Afterwards, the 8th Division will have to investigate the cause. This is really troublesome. Jingle Chunshui spread his hands. He had already imagined receiving down those troublesome. Let's go. Please return to your respective squads as soon as possible, captains, and be on guard in your respective areas. ... End of the meeting. 13 captains left the conference hall one after another. Yifeng was passing by Ichimaru Silver, and suddenly stopped, looking at Ichimaru Silver meaningfully and said, "Captain Ichimaru Silver, it's really time for these misfortunes to come, otherwise, you may suffer punished." Hear Yifeng's words. Ichimaru Silver also stopped. He shrugged and said with a smile, "Captain Yifeng is right, I'll go and make a contribution to avoid being punished by the captain in the future." "Ah, that's it, but Captain Ichimaru Silver, don't try too hard. I hope they can successfully come to the 9th Division, and I also want to fight against the misfortunes." Yifeng smiled lightly. He believed Ichimaru Silver could understand what he meant. Yifeng's sign in task this time has preconditions. That is, after the invasion, they had to wait until they came to the confines of the Repentance Palace before signing in. So, Yifeng needs someone to secretly make sure that Ichigo Kurosaki can kill the Shrine of Penance. Although in the original story, Ichigo Kurosaki did exactly that. But, after all, Aizen's plan has been advanced. The ghost knows if it will make a difference. Better to be safe.